sports? Yeah, we got that covered. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Final strike for the Cardinals. Watson trying to close it out. Little tapper. He will cover the bag and flip by Contreras. The former Cardinal helps close it out for the Red Sox with a 3 RBI night, 5 in the ninth inning for Boston. And suddenly that 2-8 start is starting to fade a little bit after 3 wins in the last 4 games for the Red Sox.
Well, they're going to feel good about this. They got a chance to win the series, but more importantly, they put some runs on the board.
Able to put up 10 hits, 7 runs. Excellent start from Ranger Suarez tonight. 6 shutout innings in his best of 3 starts.
98.5 The Sports Hub. Matt Dolloff here. I got you from 2 to 5:30 today. We're going to take you straight into Bruins pregame. George behind the glass. And to my left, folks, is a man who is returning to the airwaves at the Sports Hub. You've heard him a couple times already. You heard him yesterday. My old colleague and my dear friend Michael Hurley is with me. Mike, great to see you.
We're back.
We're back. We're back together.
Old colleague and new colleague.
Yeah, it's come full circle, right?
Really look at us.
Look, Mike and I used to work together back when the Sports Hub was a CBS Radio property.
It's true.
CBS Radio, I don't believe even exists anymore. We are now under the Beasley Media Group umbrella, and we're back together here. And it's a thrill. And the Patriots were a big deal back when we worked together, so we are going to get into some Patriots stuff later in the program today. But we're going to start with the team that is actually stop. I'm going to stop myself. Let me say this up front, folks. I'm not in the business of turning away calls today. This is a sort of a run the clock out program. This is the last show of the weekend.
It's a lovely day too, so you never know what people are going to be hot about, cold about. You know, you got Masters Sunday. It's gorgeous out.
Exactly.
There's baseball going. There's basketball going. There's hockey going.
I want to treat this like an agenda-free Friday on Felger and Maz. Call in and talk about whatever you want. Doesn't even have to be about sports. I kind of prefer sports. There's some non-sports stuff going on this week, but there's plenty of sports going on in the Boston world, and there's stuff on all the teams. So anything you want, 617-779-0985. The lines are open. But we are going to start with the local baseball club, the Boston Red Sox, because they are the freshest in people's minds. They played last night.
They're red hot.
They're the red hot Red Sox. What's their record now? I should have
5-9.
I should have looked up their actual record probably before we started the show here.
5-9, coming off a 5-run ninth inning.
Unbelievable.
I couldn't believe it.
They absolutely needed all 5 of those runs. Really. Last night,
did you know? Fun fact, by the way.
Yeah.
Aroldis Chapman. He's on the roster. You haven't seen him much. Doesn't get to play very. He got to warm up last night, and that was that's an unfortunate offshoot of not winning many games, but they didn't need him. They didn't need him. They're too good offensively.
From what I've seen from Chapman so far, he's kind of inching back toward the heart attack guy.
It's hard to tell because he doesn't get to play.
Yeah, no, he hasn't had many save opportunities because they've just been so damn good in the late innings. Mm-hmm. But no, honestly, take the ninth inning out of it. Last night is the way they have to win games this year. They got to get great pitching, and they got to get timely hitting. I don't. Did they have any ugly defensive miscues last night? I watched the game. Nothing really stuck out.
Catcher's interference is back.
Well, that was a thing, which we probably are going to get into that weird little moment. But no, there wasn't anything like there wasn't like a blooper reel type stuff.
No, it was really just the catcher's interference. Which, if you recall, last summer on like the 7th time it had been called against Narvaez, Cora basically said, "No, I'm okay with it," because ultimately the way he's catching and framing the pitches is more impactful than the 7 or whatever catcher's interferences that were called.
Yeah.
I don't know if the math checks out on that, and now in the ABS era, probably less so. So something that you're going to file away and say, listen, they really need to not have that happen on those check swings. However, not a crisis.
See, I like a good pitch frame. I've always been into catchers that can frame pitches. That is a little bit out the window now. Now that they have the technology challenging pitches.
It still has a value because, as you know, like if it's the second inning and it's a 1-1 count and there's a pitch at the bottom of the zone that the catcher can frame and get the strike call, it's a risky challenge.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a lot of guys think they win and then it nibbles and just barely grasps the strike zone. So it still has a value. It's just been decreased a little bit.
So someone needs to talk to Wilson Contreras, though, because he challenged. That was last night, right? When he challenged in the first inning.
That was Friday night.
Friday night? Oh, okay. So I got home a little late from the Bruins. I was at the Bruins. I didn't catch the start of that game.
Yeah.
But I saw the highlight of Wilson Contreras challenging in the first inning.
Not smart.
They gotta have like a team-wide rule. Like we gotta save those things for later in the game when it actually matters.
It really does handcuff you going forward. Like you have to save it until like the 8th inning at that point.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I feel like strategically, you're gonna want that for a high leverage situation. I thought early in the season, when the season started, it felt more like a humiliation ritual for a guy like CB Buckner, who had a pretty bad day in Cincinnati at the start of the season. It felt like they were just like all this years of pent-up frustration against the umpires. We're going to take it out on you right now. We're going to humiliate your ass.
Yeah, and it wasn't just, there were some clips going around with crowds just getting on these guys, and it was like, this won't last. But yeah. I think it has sort of leveled out. But I think as we're learning Wilson Contreras, the guy, like we knew the player, he's been around for a while, runs a bit hot during games.
Yeah.
Liable to start a brawl because a pitch might have touched his hand. Maybe his hand pad might have gotten grazed, maybe not. But so he runs hot during these games, so hard to tell him to put the restrictor plates when it comes to challenging. But if you get it wrong in the first inning, that should be the lesson to pocket that going forward.
Seriously. All right, so big picture for the Red Sox, Hurley. The way they played last night generally is going to be how they have to win. They got to get really good starting pitching. That's what they invested in. At least solid enough defense. Don't do anything stupid. And timely hitting. Speaking of Contreras, had a big hit last night in the 7th inning.
Smoked
it to left field. Down the line. Great base running by Jarren Duran to score from first on that play, so that was good. They looked like a real ball club for a half inning there.
That was the fourth.
Contreras indeed delivers.
That was the fourth inning, just for clarification.
What?
That they scored that 2-run double.
That was the 4th inning?
Yeah. It was early.
Why did I think that was the 7th inning? I'm getting my games mixed up.
You might
See,
be.
I was at the Bruins game last night,
blender,
folks.
bro.
I was at the Bruins yesterday. I got hockey on the brain, so forgive me. I'm getting my innings and games mixed up right now. But no, that was still a big play. Like, they need runs wherever they can get them. You got runners on base. You got to get them home.
And what started that rally, such as it was a Roman Anthony walk, which he has not been doing much. He has been, I think he had 5 walks and 15 strikeouts since opening day heading into yesterday. So listen, a walk with Caleb Durbin behind you in the lineup, hard to do. So
we'll get to him,
credit to Anthony for getting that started. Then Duran reached on a base hit, and then you get that double. That double was smoked.
Yeah, no, it really was. And so they get into those situations, they really got to deliver. But it also just speaks to a frustration that the Red Sox really didn't go that extra mile to build a team that they can really contend for the World Series with, because I look at this team and they can contend for a playoff spot. They turn around, they start to get the pitching they're expecting to get. Can win a lot of games that way. It can only get you so far. And it's good that they get hits when they in the situations that they need them, like that Contreras hit last night. And obviously they pulled away late. They got some insurance runs. Insurance runs are good, but that game was in the balance up until that 9th inning, and we're sitting at home kind of biting our fingernails late in these games because they give up the lead like they did in some of that Milwaukee series. I know they ended up winning was it 2 out of 3, but they give up the late lead. You don't have much confidence that they can come through at the very end of the game because they don't have the offense and the guys that they're depending on to get offense. I mean, I know Anthony's off to a bit of a slow start, which is a whole other thing that they're putting so much in on his plate at 21 years old, first full season in the majors. Trevor Story's off to a terrible start. Caleb Durbin, I don't even know what he is, and we're going to talk about him next break. I think George is actually going to have a thought on that. But the lineup they put out there, it does feel very, not even mid-market, feels very small market, and putting so much dependence on young guys that have no experience, and you bring in Contreras to be one of your veteran leaders, which is I love that stuff with the Brewers. I love that someone on the team was showing some fire at a time when they were playing just horrid baseball and we didn't really know which direction the season was going to go in. So I liked that in a vacuum, but to have a hothead who's sort of in his own world when it comes to that stuff, like. He was just sort of trying to get revenge on something that happened last year in the NL Central.
And did you see
Boston?
Someone on Twitter spliced together all the times he had been hit by the Brewers, because it's 15 times now or something. Outside of 2 in the ribs, they were all like that, where he's hanging over the plate, sticking his elbow out, getting hit in a pad, and it was like, this is not personal. You are actively seeking these out half the time.
Yeah, no, he does seem like a guy who tries to start stuff. right?
Pretty good for the TV show, though.
Don't start nothing, won't be nothing. I don't know who said that originally, but that's what I would say to Wilson Contreras. But it's good to have that kind of presence. But I think this goes back to the leadership thing where you're putting so much on Roman Anthony to be sort of not just a great young hitter, which I think he's still going to be an excellent hitter at this level, but to be the face of the franchise and your leader and to do all that stuff at age 21, that's a terrible idea. And I think that goes back to this whole analytics mindset where they take the human element out of it. They take, clubhouse leadership out of it. You think you could just change out your leadership every year? It's kind of hard to build chemistry that way. I just think the way they tinker with the lineup year to year like that is just not sustainable. And the way they built this team, it's not going to be sustainable over the course of the season in terms of World Series contention, I don't think. I think they could probably win enough games to be in that wild card mix. And then you get into the playoffs, see what happens. I get it. But it just feels like they stopped short. And, it's hard to argue that they didn't do that on purpose because with the lack of overall spending, the lack of going the extra mile, the lack of big contracts, it just feels like they're averse to that sort of thing.
I had one more. It was a good game last night. But there was one maybe eyebrow-raising moment when Garrett Whitlock, did you catch that home run that Jordan Walker hit to center field?
Yes.
Absolute bomb. It was a 94-mile-an-hour pitch right down the middle, center cut, absolutely smashed. And Whitlock is an important part because, like you said, these are the games. Granted, they pulled away with 5 runs in the ninth to kind of make it a moot point, but generally speaking, you're in a 2-0 game late. You kind of need your Slayton, Whitlock, Chapman trio to be nearly perfect.
That needs to be a thing.
They're outside of, last night being an exception, you're not going to have a ton of room for error. There's going to be very little, and you're going to have those games where you're up 2-1 in the 7th, in the 8th, in the 9th, and you need those guys to kind of be, perfect is too high of an expectation, but with this team, you're not going to get that 5-run ninth very often.
And that's why it's so frustrating. The Red Sox shouldn't be a no margin for error team. They should be a team that's talented enough that they can get by making some mistakes because you know that the talent is going to win out in the end, but that just doesn't feel like the case with them right now. 617-779-0985. We're starting off talking Red Sox, folks. But if you want to call in anything you want to talk about, we are going to get to everything else basically that's happening in the sports world, the Masters, Boston, anything. Give us a call and we'll talk about whatever you want. We're going to take a quick break here, though. Matt Dolloff, Michael Hurley, we're off and running on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Boston's home for sports. 98.5 The Sports. In this town, sports happens 24/7. We're Boston's home for sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
The Sports Hub, Matt Dolloff and Michael Hurley. We got you until 5:30. We just spent the entire commercial break trying to work the TVs, so we got Red Sox on one, Masters on the other.
I am a gilded god at remote controlling.
We're probably going to talk a little more about the Masters later, but I just wanted to point out, shape it up to be an unbelievable Sunday here. We got 5 players within 2 strokes of each other. So thank you to Rory for choking away that lead, as is tradition.
I was texting my good friend Mike Cole yesterday, always texting during golf tournaments, and I said, it's incredible that literally the most overhyped event in the world still manages to deliver.
Why do you think it's the most overhyped?
Well, just because it's the Masters.
The prestige. Yeah.
It's impossible to live up to the way that it's built up, but more often than not it does, which is pretty incredible.
Well, for some, the old saying that the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. I feel like that never comes out anywhere as great as it does at the Masters, one way or the other. The way guys can come back and triumph in that tournament, and then the way guys can just so unbelievably choke it away. It's weird how that happens every year. Either someone runs away with it, or you just have all this drama and all these great comebacks and guys choking it away. It's fun stuff. Unfortunately, we're stuck here doing a radio program while it's going on, but we're probably gonna run out of here and watch the end of it right after this program's done.
We'll be fine. He's teeing off at 225.
Yeah.
Outside of you're right on the agony of defeat thing, because I could still tell you about watching Jean Van de Velde pulling his pants up trying to hit out of the creek at the British Open 25 years ago.
That's a classic. Yeah, that's an all-timer. I was looking up the biggest chokes. The Greg Norman one in '96 is a famous one. There's the famous photo of him falling to his knees. That's what people watch for that stuff every year, and it's always
had some.
Yeah, Spieth had a crazy one when he hit his ball in the water 4 times or something crazy.
You know what? Golf is a tough game. That's my take on it. So when these guys,
we came in out on a limb there.
We came in yesterday, McCarthy and I, and it was like, you know what? There may be no Masters Sunday. If Rory shot 3 under yesterday, it's just elementary at this point.
Moot point if he's coming into this 14 under.
Yeah, shout out to him for making this a spectacle today.
Yes, we thank you, Lord Rory. The golf world thanks you for that. All right, let's just circle back to the Red Sox here. My concern is more big picture with them, because it's look, it's 162 games. It's an everyday grind. Hard to really dive into the minutia of a single game. But we talked a little bit about it in the first break. I think the way they won last night, that's going to be how they have to play on a consistent basis. But I just think it speaks to the frustration that they have to sort of thread the needle so much to win so many games. What's happening?
The Red Sox game, for whatever reason, is just showing the game from the third base dugout.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of speaks to the Red Sox situation.
Broadcast difficulties on, this is Nesson?
Yeah.
This is not, the score bug is sort of throwing me off. I know everyone was talking about it. Did they reduce it?
I think so.
It felt like
it was way bigger than when the ad's underneath it, it's a bit obnoxious.
These new camera views from the show, my goodness.
Just eyeballing it takes up maybe 9-10% of the screen, which
it's big. That's
bigger than it seems.
When they clip the videos for social media, the vertical ones, it's still poking in there. That's how big it is. But when it comes to your big picture, can we small picture it for a minute and just do April? Because if you look at the April schedule and what's coming up, because you have people sort of expected St. Louis and Minnesota to be sort of also ran sort of last place teams.
Yeah.
Surprisingly good records on both. So if you can go to both places and win both series, today's a sneaky big game for that reason. If you can come out of St. Louis with the series win, go to Minnesota and win there, you're sort of stable. You're not, off to the races, but you're at least stabilizing, because what comes after that, you're hosting the Yankees. You're going to Baltimore. You're going to Toronto. And that's the end of your month. So you are touring the AL East outside of Tampa, and those are 3 big series, and I think you at least want to be on close to level footing. If you're still chasing, if you're still 4 or 5 games under 500 when you host the Yankees, your wheels are going to be spinning in the mud. And it's just that's what I think today is a big game. And then if you can go to Minnesota, you've got Crochet to start it, you've got Gray and Early, you should win that series too, and then you can talk about it. You come out at, say, I don't know, 8-10, right? 8-11.
Yeah, I mean,
that's manageable.
After you started 2-8, I'll take 8-10 at this point. Yeah, severe difficulties on the NESN broadcast. Wilson Contreras just hit a home run. Not to do play-by-play on the radio,
No, but this is unbelievable. You just said it.
Shout out to this dugout cameraman. He's doing a pretty good job right now.
Yeah, you said it a minute ago. That's 162.
Nice shot of a guy's ass.
Well, you got to get that in. That might be Durbin. I'm not sure, but you mentioned it's a 162 game grind. There's 30 teams. 15 times 162. There are that many baseball games per season. The center field camera going out can't happen.
Yeah, that's that. You can't have it.
What happened?
Can't have it. There's the Wally head.
That
the Wally head is bad. People were worried about the Wally head. I was like, can we worry about the real stuff? But I know athletes tend to be superstitious. So,
well, did you like when that came out for the first time this year? Down 5 runs in the 9th inning, Contreras hits a solo homer to make it 5-2. And they're like, it was with 2 outs in the 9th, and Duran was there like, here you go, man. This
that was the saddest Wally head I've ever seen. Yeah, and Contreras was like, get this out of here. Get this out of my face. But look, Red Sox out to an early lead, so that's good. But I think, go back to the big picture, I just think that the spending is not quite where it needs to be still. I know people have made the argument, they have spent, but a new report came out this week in the Associated Press, and Maz wrote about this on 985thesportshub.com. The Red Sox 12th in cash spending. Not quite where you want to be. I'm not asking them to spend $500 million. They don't need to be right up there with the Dodgers and the Mets. You should be top 5, right? This is a big market. They should operate like a big market team. And I think if they just got one more big contract in there, if they brought Alex Bregman back, or if they signed, Pete Alonso, who I know he's out to a slow start with Baltimore, but if it doesn't matter how the guy performs, just show the city that you are dedicated to putting a real World Series team out there. And I think they came up woefully short of that. And even just for the sake of this argument, just say they are, top 5, top 10 in spending. The real issue, I think, is how they distribute it. Because if you go to Spot Track and you look at the rankings of players and the percentage of the payroll they take up, the highest percentage on the team is Garrett Crochet, who was 34th in baseball. And look, they gave Garrett Crochet a good, legit contract, but that's the highest you're going to go for your highest paid player in terms of how much of your space he's taking up is 34th. And for context, Shohei Ohtani's number 1, Kyle Tucker's number 2. I think it was Zach Wheeler, the ace for the Phillies, is up there. Like, all the top contending teams, they have that extra mile contract on their books. And if you really want to win a World Series, they have to make a move like that. You can't depend on a guy like Roman Anthony taking the bait on an 8-year deal where he's going to be so woefully underpaid. He's going to be upset about his contract probably in 3-4 years' time. Well, now that he was convinced to take that deal, they're going to have to make that move at some point. And I feel like they've always been capable of it. They're just not willing to do it.
And you had 2 guys there for you in Schwarber and Alonso. And, how available was Schwarber? Was he ever really going to leave Philly? I don't know. But money is ultimately what decides these things. And you look at that cash ranking, the Blue Jays being 4th, right, at just under $292 million, okay? The Red Sox being all the way down at $212 million. That is where you have that. This is the Toronto Blue Jays now. The Toronto Blue Jays are they the richest team in the world? There is just more of an element, and that's why you have the fans being pissed the other night and chanting "Sell the team." It's not necessarily, like you said, the investment specifically, but it's the allotment, and they've made bad financial decisions, which I think makes John Henry averse to taking risks that he used to love taking, and it's kind of tiered, I think, because when you had Theo Epstein, who was excellent at his job making these risky decisions, I think it's easy to say, all right, I trust you, Theo. When it's this parade of Ben Cheringtons and even, Dombrowski is just a big spender, and that worked for a little bit. They obviously got a World Series out of it, but very quickly, John Henry was like, I can't live this lifestyle. And you go back to your Chaim Blooms and your Craig Breslows, if it's sort of speaks to the baseball operations issue, I think, more than ownership, because there isn't the right guy running the franchise for a long period of time. It's changing every 4 years. The philosophies change every 4 years, and you can't have any consistency with it.
And I think that also sort of speaks to John Henry, where they can't stick with a guy. Where they're starting to cycle through guys, And I think Breslow might have been like the 10th guy on their list. Like people are worried. People are afraid to come here because it's like you're going to turn around and fire me in 3 years, change your vision every year. You can't have that. So I don't blame a good experienced GM for, holding out for the most money or, having a guarantee of job security, something like that. Like Breslow feels like he effed up the roster this offseason because I think ultimately you can't fire John Henry. And so it comes back to, the guy in charge and the trades he's making and how he's spending the money that he's given. I think that falls on Breslow.
We were having this discussion the other night. I was on Boston Sports Tonight with the Michaels. It was the Triple Michael show. And
Felger and Hawley and Hurley.
Yeah,
wow.
we're a law firm.
I like that.
Michael, and Michael, I like to call it. But we were discussing, who did better or worse or who has been better. And we did Chaim Bloom because they were going to St. Louis and Craig Breslow. And their resumes were put up on the screen, and it was like Chaim Bloom, first bullet point, traded Mookie Betts, and you're like, that's a tough one to come back from. But then I would argue that really wasn't Chaim Bloom. He did an awful job on the return.
Yeah, Bloom had better hair. He could iron a dress shirt better.
Spoke a little bit more human. I would give him that. Like he could probably have a conversation a lot, even if it's unnatural for him. He could pull it off better than Craig Breslow, but. He did an awful job on the return for that, but again, ownership saddled him with getting rid of David Price's salary, so hard to fully blame him for that one. And then I would argue maybe Breslow's handling of Devers was even worse because I think Alex Cora really wanted Alex Bregman a year ago, got him. Breslow got him like the eve of spring training, and I think there was a trust like, Alex, you're going to work this out with Devers, right? And it was never spoken. Like if I'm running baseball ops and you tell me to get a guy and I don't have a conversation with you about how you're going to handle our best player and his ego and his feelings and whatever, I'm not doing my job. And I think the resulting mess that happened after that with the whole Devers thing and Cora being like, I'm not really going to talk to him. And then you got the owner flying to where'd he go? St. Louis, Cincinnati. Well, they had Kansas City, I think. It was Kansas City. John Henry had to go out there and talk to Devers, and Devers was we got a problem, bro. And it's all because I think Breslow he's not a human communicator. He's whatever he's operating on, yeah, sure, this could work here, this could work here. There's a human element that was missing, and then you basically end up having to hastily trade him before it gets worse, and you have nothing to show for it. So it's like it's almost worse than Betts because the Betts thing was clearly a year before free agency. Ownership was like, we're not doing one of those 13-year, $380 million contracts. You got to get rid of them. Bloom didn't do a good job. This was all sort of like shooting yourself in the foot. It was all self-inflicted. And here you are. You got Durbin in there. You're trying to make it worse. I know they got Contreras. That was a good get. But it's just there's a lack of a plan, which is one thing, but it's almost made worse by the fact that you created a bad situation. And like didn't see that coming.
617-779-0985. We're right in the middle of the Red Sox discussion. I don't think we're done with it yet, so we're going to keep going with that. But we got to take a quick break here. It's Matt Dolloff and Michael Hurley on the Sports Hub.
Boston's home for sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub. Boston sports, we're fans just like you. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Get the Red Sox out of a safe spot. There's the base hit. In from third, Narvaez. Coming around is Rafaela indeed. That is the case. Durbin drives in a pair. And the Red Sox coming through big.
Matt Dolloff and Michael Hurley, we got you until 5:30 today. We're starting Red Sox, but I get the sense that people are, just watching the ball game. They're not really thinking about calling in to complain about the Red Sox.
Not after a big win on a Saturday night.
After they won, and now they got the lead here. Trevor Story's on base. Marcelo Meyer's off to a good start this year. Overall, I think. I haven't seen his offensive numbers, but he looks pretty good. They have the talent. Like, I think that 2-8 start was alarming. I kind of put that on Alex Cora that they didn't seem ready to go. And I look at it, I was like, how do you get basic stuff wrong? And like, it's not just bad defense, it's just like mind-numbing blooper reel type stuff. Like, that to me is inexcusable, especially when you're trying to be a team built on pitching and defense. So I kind of put that on Cora, but there is something that I got to put on Craig Breslow. I got to scratch an itch here, Hurley. Caleb Durbin, who you just heard, he actually got a pretty big hit recently.
It was 3-1 in the ninth. It was a little insurance run, but we'll give it to him.
I like insurance runs. I'm big on insurance runs, and again, that's another thing. They're going to need to get some insurance runs in some of these games. When you're a pitching and defense team, and you're not going to blow teams away with your power and your offense, you're probably going to have a lot of 2-1, 3-1 games. You're going to need those insurance runs. So I'll take it, but I got to take people inside baseball to use a pun. Real quick, Hurley.
Well, real quick, too, just to give him credit. He did have a clutch hit by pitch in the first inning today. He got plunked.
Nice.
You can't put a value on that one.
Yeah, that's Roger Dorn in Major League 2. Step into it. Step into one. Take one for the team. So I effed up the article on Caleb Durbin when they traded for him. In our line of work, in your experience as a day-to-day writer, news comes out and you're on the clock. You got to write up the story. And
you got to be fast.
Doesn't matter what it's about. It doesn't matter, what sport it is, whether it's your expertise. If you're on the clock, you're the content producer. You got to get it done, and you do have to get it out quick. I don't cover the National League. I don't cover Milwaukee Brewers baseball, so I didn't really know anything about Caleb Durbin when they traded him. So all I had to go by was his baseball reference and his fan graphs. I looked over his stats and tried to throw in a little bit of editorializing at the bottom. I was like, oh, this guy's he's a good utility guy. He'll be a good utility guy if they get Bregman back or they get a real third baseman. He could be a nice backup third baseman. So I threw that in the article, and who finds the article, reads it, and blasts it out on Twitter.
Craig Breslow.
No, well that would have been fun. Or John Henry. John Henry came back on Twitter. No, Lou Merlone of Nesson and our competitors' fame. Quotes the article, says, oh, he could be a solid backup. Wow. What does this guy know what he's talking? And everyone in the reply is like, he doesn't know what he's talking about, Lou. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't know ball. Which, by the way, that's a term that's starting to lose all meaning. You don't know ball.
Unless you use it in a funny way. Then it's funny.
You could use it in a funny way or an ironic way. Yes. If it's funny, I'll take it. But I think people just kind of instead of engaging the actual argument, they just throw it out there. You don't know ball. How does that look right now? Look, I know it's still just mid-April, and Caleb Durbin could turn around and have a solid season. It's still very early. He had that big hit, that insurance run. But he's batting 114, no homers. He's got a underwhelming bat speed, I would say. I think the metrics, they measure it. He literally has like one of the slowest bats in baseball.
Does not look like an elite athlete. He does not present himself as. But I will say that I said this to McCarthy yesterday. So to be fair, he doesn't look natural over at third. He makes all the plays. He does make the plays at third base.
But to me, that's a utility guy. A utility guy can play multiple positions, play good defense, and occasionally give you a hit, maybe.
Occasionally pop in with a little hit. Not
a starting third baseman on a World Series team is my point. So you look at the numbers and you say this is a utility backup guy on a World Series team.
Well, I would say the reason that Lou probably roasted your ass on
because it's sports
social media. Well,
he looks at me. He sees us as all the same.
I think he looks at a kid who stepped in as a rookie and played for 120 games on the best team in baseball last year. But you were coming with the perspective of, well, this is the Boston Red Sox, where someone like Rafael Devers or Alex Bregman is going to play third base, where Trevor Story, who isn't very good but makes a ton of money, plays shortstop, where Marcelo Meyer, a prized prospect, can play second base. You're like, oh, this is a useful guy to have to fill in at multiple spots.
Yeah,
I don't think you're wrong.
No. Well, look, I was wrong about what his role was going to be on the Red Sox. Like the Red Sox, they had him pegged as the starting third baseman after that move. I forget the timeline. I think it was after Bregman. This is like their backup plan.
Yeah, well, they also...
So like he's going to be the starting third baseman. Okay, I was wrong about that. I don't think I'm wrong about the type of player that Caleb Durbin is.
I don't think so either. And it's also the Kiner Falefa signing. There's too many guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Durbin's a guy. Maybe he'll have a great career. I don't quite see it. I know everyone wants to harp on the third and NL Rookie of the Year thing as if that's winning the NL Rookie of the Year, which it is not.
No.
It's actually finishing third. So
it was a distant third, by the way, if you look at the votes on that.
Yeah, it wasn't even close. But so
that was like I got to vote for someone type of thing.
So I think they got Durbin before Kiner Falefa. So they just loaded up. It was weird. It was like all insurance policy against Bregman, which tells you they were never really going to get Bregman. But they just, at this point, should have, to your point, stars, impact players, because you got this guy batting second as if that's where he belongs. It's truly crazy.
He could, like he profiles as maybe one of your classic two hitters where he can get doubles, get on base, but that has not translated. Caleb Durbin at the plate, by the way, so he's about to possibly shove it in my face. Nesson's having a day, Hurley.
A lot of camera issues.
Nesson's having a day. No, it's second and third, right?
Yeah.
Second and third, they showed Durbin's stats with the bases loaded.
Well, imagine if they were loaded as he grounds out to end.
And the inning is over.
Just imagine. That's why he grounded out, because they weren't loaded.
He's got the sports hub in his ear right now. Sorry, Caleb.
Son of a gun.
So yeah, like I think this goes back to the type of players they're bringing in and the type of approach they're taking, and I do think it goes all the way up to ownership and the limitations they're putting on the front office. But I think this goes back to the same point that you were making last break, where he didn't have to trade, James Tibbs for Dustin May.
Didn't have to do it.
Last year, Tibbs is lighting it up in the minors. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, he's hitting 4 home runs every game. You didn't have to trade for whatever Kyle Harrison ends up being, a left-handed starting pitcher, one of the most valuable commodities in sports. Yeah, just get him out of here.
Yeah, and he traded away, I forget who they got back, but they traded away Quinn Priester to the Brewers. He's hurt right now, but I think he ended up having a solid year.
He sure did.
But the Brewers tend to get the most out of their guys. They have a good coaching development system in place, which would, this is what the Red Sox should be like the Brewers if they're going to take this approach. Develop your guys, coach them up, get the fundamentals down, do all the little things right, because when you have no margin for error, you have to win on the margins. You can't be a pitching and defense team and then not know how to field basic ground balls or know basic base running stuff. You got to get all that stuff right. And so I think there's a thing where, like in Worcester, they don't even teach fundamentals or something like that. Like it's crazy to me how
Roman Anthony, the biggest prospect in the system, comes up and on day 2 is taking grounders in the outfield, like Little League. And it's just, I don't know if that's a generational thing, but to your point, like other teams can do it. There's no reason to be one of the worst at it. It may not be like 1985 where people are coming up and all the fundamentals are nailed down and everything's rock solid. Maybe it's a different era where that's just not going to happen, but you could still be one of the better current teams, by comparison.
Yeah, I think they definitely have the resources to be that team. They always have. It's just they've chosen not to do it, and I think that's why you're getting the sell the team chance. So I thought, look, I get it. For a few years there, their farm system was depleted in the post-Dombrowski era. I think at the same time, there haven't been too many prospects that have come back to bite them that Dombrowski traded away. But I think you got to find a balance there. I think I heard Maz talking about this the other day. Maybe it was Friday's show where you don't have to pick a lane. You just stay in the middle of the road. And, if you have to change lanes every now and then, on one lane you got develop your prospects and keep your prospects. On the other side, you got, trade them away and go all in. Not saying the Red Sox have to go all in for the World Series this year, but it feels like they're always building toward a future for a present that's never going to arrive. When is it going to arrive? Well, Roman Anthony's here. Yeah. Marcelo Meyer's here. Peyton Tolley is in the minors, but it feels like he's almost here. Connolly Early is here. I'm surprised they didn't. I'm surprised they didn't send Early down. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they sent him back down at some point for service time reasons because they're still focused on that stuff. Like, your guys are up here. When are we going to start making that push? Well, it feels like they took a step back, and the way they approached it makes it feel like it was almost a deliberate step back.
Yeah, I mean, if you took this offseason like a big market team, you trade Jaron Duran for whatever prospect you can get. You're not going to get the value you want on it, but you have too many guys there. It's your fault. You built up too many people in your outfield and your DH system. You DFA Masataka Yoshida because Chaim Bloom signed him to a bad contract, and you're stuck. You toughed it out for what? This is the fourth year of Masataka Yoshida, so it's like you got to cut bait at a certain point. Then you go out and you sign Kyle Schwarber to be your DH, and you have a big league roster. You know, it's a huge step toward a big league roster, but it's a lack of desire to do literally any of that. If you did some of that, we could have a decent conversation, but they didn't want to do any of that.
No, I get it. They want to just sit on their hands and hope for the best. And then, they pat themselves on the back for that Christian Campbell contract. That's obviously blown up in their face.
How's he doing in Worcester this year?
Seriously, I couldn't tell you. But I don't want to close the book on his whole career, but
that was wild.
That was talk about jumping the gun on that one. And just the servicing they gave themselves in that press conference, that was completely unnecessary. Even if he did turn out to be good, we'd still look at that. That was not a good moment for Craig Breslow in that front office.
He's hitting 245 down in Worcester this year with a 717 OPS. So not exactly the power hitter we saw that in spring training a year ago, where he made the big club out of spring training, had a hot April. He's still cool down in there in the independent league.
He's athletic, but he's just a raw athlete, and I don't think that's a great combo for a team that doesn't teach fundamentals and development in the minors. So they gotta change something there. 6-1
internationally, not independent league. That's my bad.
Oh, okay. I thought I said that.
No, I goofed. He's
not in the Cape Cod League.
He's not on the Long Island Ducks.
All right, 617-779-0985. We're going to take one more break before the end of the hour. Matt Dolloff and Michael Hurley on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Boston's home for sports. 98.5 The Celtics, the Patriots, the Sox, the Revs, and you. We're Boston's home for sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
A challenge of the challenge. So originally called a hit by pitch, looked to be a foul tip off the bat into the glove, but the bat hitting the glove would potentially indicate catcher's interference. Here's Bill Miller having to sort it all out.
Since the call of hit by pitch was overturned, St. Louis is challenging it was catcher's interference.
Fascinating.
It would be fascinating because both would be right.
Yeah. Like, you can't blame either manager in that position. Because Marmol would not have challenged it initially. Obviously, it went his batter's way as a hit by pitch, so he would have taken first base.
After review, it was determined it was catcher's interference. So the call is overturned, and the batter will go to first base.
I'm not out of order. You're out of order.
98.5 The Sports Hub. Matt Dolloff and Michael Hurley. We got you until 5:30. Talking Red Sox this first hour. And, yeah, that was last night. We had a challenge of a challenge. Feels like a first in Major League Baseball, but this is the new era where the tech is starting to take over. This is one thing where I'm kind of with Felger, Hurley, is that the overabundance of technology just doesn't feel necessary to me. I think it's a problem that we have all these HD cameras and we can see every blade of grass. It must have been so much better in the 70s and 80s. The blissful ignorance of having a low-quality TV and not being able to see.
Is the toe in bounds or does the toe touch the what? You have no idea.
The only evidence you had was like if you're watching an old U.S. Open and John McEnroe is screaming at the official that like the chalk flew up. Like you couldn't see it if you're watching the TV back then. But you watch it now, you see every little speck of dirt and dust and paint and whatever. But yeah, that last night was I'm sure it was fascinating to baseball nerds, but like just doesn't seem necessary to me on April 11th to have a challenge and then a challenge of the challenge. I get that the replay showed it was clearly catcher's interference, and maybe even a 1978 TV would have picked that one up. You could see the bat hit you could see the glove touch the guy's bat.
I'd argue with you on this because I think you do need it because you have a home plate umpire who calls a hit by pitch when the pitch did not hit the batter. And the umpire clearly needed some assistance. It was a catcher's interference and a foul tip into the mitt. The issue for me is they called hit by pitch. Cora says that did not hit him. I'm challenging. You see on replay a foul tip into the mitt. It's strike three. It was an 0-2 count. The umpire, the crew chief comes out and says, all right, didn't hit him. Batter's back up with a 1-2 count. So somehow the batter was going to get a ball out of fouling a pitch into the mitt. But I don't know if that was some sort of alert from the replay official in New York to be like, something's not right. Maybe St. Louis should, because they can't. I looked it up. You know, in football, if you challenge for one thing, they look at everything, right?
Yeah.
Baseball is different. They can only overturn the call that was challenged. So they called hit by pitch. Cora challenged it. All they could do in New York is say, not a hit by pitch. They couldn't say catcher's interference. So that required Marmol to challenge the other way and say that was catcher's interference, which created like a 4-minute gap that could have been solved much cleaner. So they should fix that. The
umpires suck. The refs suck. The officials suck. They all suck at their jobs. I think nobody disagrees with that. I'm not defending the officials. I'm not saying they actually do a good job or it's a hard job.
To your point.
Right, it should, and it wouldn't have mattered because it was catcher's interference, and there was a double sound, and the ump was like, well, he must have been hit, but it was clearly the bat hitting the glove instead of the ball hitting the man.
Yeah, I just think I'm okay with living with a bad call, and I think maybe it's just harder, maybe due to the HD technology thing, where like everyone can see it. Where I think maybe watching a game decades ago, you wouldn't even notice, let alone get any kind of alert or any kind of replay or anything like that where you don't really know how bad a call was. But I think that just happens sometimes. And like April 11th, at the very beginning of the season, I know the Red Sox need every win they can get right now. So that you would have liked that call went their way, but like you're going to slow the game down if you keep challenging everything. And I just hate the ABS where like, I feel like they got to modify the rules on that. The ball is a millimeter inside the strike zone, could they make it so it's over 50%?
That's not the strike zone, though.
See, this is where
I live by the ethos of a wiffle ball plastic chair. If it ever so slightly nicks that chair, that's a strike.
You hear a little ding of the metal on the chair.
You're like, I did it. I am an ace.
I think if you're going to challenge it, if you're going to overturn a challenge,
true, it is.
That should be the context of it. I don't think.
Yeah,
they're circumcising the mosquito, as Jerry Jones said.
That's a fair point, because if the umpire calls it a strike or a ball on the borderline like that, then it's whatever. But you're right. A challenge should be explicitly wrong. You're fixing something that is unquestionably incorrect.
Yeah, and like they went through a completely unnecessary process of the challenge, and then the challenge of the challenge. If they had a skyjet and said, no, actually that was a hit by pitch, and they moved on with their lives, I get that. That was a pretty obvious thing. But I think you just bogged the game down, and you're early in the season, and you just don't need to be overly focused on all these little details so early in the season, especially. 617-779-0985. We're a little up against the clock, so we got to take a quick look at the headlines here with Hurley, and we're going to come right back. Hurley, we got to switch gears to our local football team, unfortunately. So we got something that I need to get your thoughts on.
I also have some, I think, positive thoughts on this team, because I've taken a look at some of the overall expectations and things being said about this team, and I feel people are running them short a little bit. I think you got to lift those expectations, and I'll tell you why today.
Cool. All right, we'll get to that. 617-779-0985. You want to call in, talk about whatever you want. Hurley's going to give you the headlines. We'll be right back. No commercials. Matt Dolloff and Michael Hurley on the Sports Hub.
From the Town Fair Times Studios, Dutcher and Hardy, Owen Beetle, Felger and Mass, the Bruins, the Celtics, the Pats, the Revolution. This is Boston's home for sports. WBC-FM at HD Boston, 98.5 The Sports Hub, a Beasley Media Group station. Essential Sports Hub headline, presented by Celsius Energy Drinks.
All right, we are going to start at Augusta, where Cam Young has jumped past Rory McIlroy into the lead through 2 holes in the Masters. Rory now in second all alone with 2 players, Scotty Scheffler and Shane Lowry 3 back of the leader at 9 under. Long way to go in that one. Over in baseball, the Red Sox have a 3-1 lead over the Cardinals. Wilson Contreras hit his 3rd home run of the season. Brian Bayo is on the mound for Boston. Over to the winter sports. The Celtics close out their regular season tonight in Orlando. That game tips at 6 p.m. Pregame starts at 5:30 on 105.7 WROR. And the Bruins backed into a playoff spot last night. They'll play their penultimate game of the season tonight at 6 p.m. Some rumblings out there that James Higgins may finally make his NHL debut. We will find out. Pregame beginning here on 98.5 The Sports Hub at 5:30 p.m. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Super Service Today. Upgrade your home with an electric heat pump system from Super Service Today to stay cool this summer, warm all winter, and save on energy costs while reducing your carbon footprint. For a free estimate, visit superservicetoday.com. I'm Michael Hurley. Next update in an hour.
This is what happens when analysts take over the game, take over the sport.
This is where you talk sports.
It happens all the time.
The Sports Hub. No matter what team, no matter what player, no matter what coach, no matter what game, it all happens here. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
We were gathered here 15 months ago at the Sports Illustrated Pavilion to welcome Mike as a new inductee into the Patriots Hall of Fame. And I'm really proud that 15 months later, we're back here today to invite him and his lovely wife, Jen, to announce as the new head coach of the New England Patriots. I'd like to ask Jen if she'd come up here for a moment. This is from our entire fan base here to tell you how excited we are about you both being. With that being said, it's my great honor to introduce you all to the next head coach of the New England Patriots, Mike Vrabel.
The Sports Hub, Matt Dolloff and Michael Hurley. We got you until 5:30. Hurley, last time we worked together, Patriots were still in the middle of their dynasty. They were also in the middle of a good old-fashioned scandal. give or take a year about, it was, what, the end of 2017? So I guess Deflategate was kind of over. They had the Belichick-Brady internal drama going on. There's always something.
Did Deflategate really ever end, brother?
No, that's what that was your thing. You were the Deflategate guy. You would come in every day.
Yeah.
With just a giant stack of papers. You plop it down on the desk, dust flies up.
Got a briefcase full of loose papers. I got my hair all over the place, coffee, cigarettes.
I found a new provision. I got to tell you about this.
I'll tell you what.
Take it easier.
You know what really pees me years later is that was such a big deal, such a big scandal, all over national news, sports news, everything hovered over it. And then something happened where everyone's like, man, I don't really care. It's like, but you cannot have cared that much for this thing that no one ever cared about before, and then you just say like, whatever.
Yeah, I think this day and age, things blow over very quickly. I think there's stuff that's even bigger than sports, like real life stuff that people forget about it within days.
It's true.
Which we don't have to get into the real life stuff, but I guess we'll kind of get into it now because it's only fitting, Hurley, that the first time we actually worked together since that time, Patriots right back in a good old fashioned scandal. And this is obviously not a football scandal, not necessarily. I don't think it's going to result in too much on the football side of things. It's more of a media scandal with the Mike Vrabel, Diana Rossini thing that came out earlier this week. To me, one of the more interesting things was literally said in the New York Post that it was a spy. Our spy found photos.
That's tabloidy. Who knows what it was?
I don't read much of the tabloids, so maybe that's more common than it is. But I just found that interesting. Like that, it was actually a covert operation. So the story, exactly. The thing was shopped around. TMZ said no, but I get that because it's like they probably don't even know who Diana Rossini and Mike Vrabel are. The TMZ.
Yeah, I mean they
folks.
do have a sports wing, so it is a little strange. They said no.
If it involved a player, maybe that would have been more. Sexy enough
this
for
guy coached
TMZ.
in the Super Bowl 2 minutes ago.
I know.
But I think what I want to talk about with it is how it affects. I mean, you could talk about it in a lot of ways that make us uncomfortable. And I don't think we're going to get into those ways, like the personal things and whatever their relationships are with their spouses is stuff that we're not going to talk about here.
No. We don't have to get too far into that. You don't have to get into it at all. Like I think. More than enough has been said about it already. There's not much new out there other than Diana Rossini has been, for all intents and purposes, suspended by The Athletic. I don't expect something similar to happen with Mike Vrabel. And there was extra chatter today because he's not going to speak before the draft, Mike Vrabel is. And they didn't change that. They sent out their pre-draft media availability even like a month ago. And it was never Vrabel. It was only Elliot Wolf. So that wasn't a change. So I wouldn't characterize it as Vrabel ducking the media on this sort of thing.
It is strange, though, because he's so straightforward and so no-nonsense. To not be out in front of it is out of character for him. It's a different, and whatever that statement was, like, let's say his statement is true, and let's say Diana's statement is true. Let's operate on that premise. That is still a wildly weird and inappropriate thing for Diana to be like, oh, sometimes sources meet outside of the stadium. It's like not at a romantic resort 2 hours away from where the coach is. Like that is so outside of the norm that to act like we're all the fools for having any sort of thoughts having seen it is insane.
Well, like, I think even if you want to say like there's no guarantee of what was actually happening. I know people say, well, if you have any common sense, you know what's going on there. Even if you don't want to say I know what was going on, you have to at least say there was an attempt for something like that to take place. And so on one side of it, anyway.
And I think the reason you have Vrabel being sort of avoidant right now and dodgy on it is because he has to sort out his personal private life behind closed doors. You know, like that's what has to, like, there has to be. So the statement buys time to figure that out. But the reason that, like, I wanted to come in with that is because when Mike Vrabel is introduced, it's like, they make his wife they didn't have to make his wife part of the introductory press conference. So it just sort of makes it even worse from the outside, like an area that we don't need to go. But what I found interesting too, that I don't think anyone has talked about, is remember going into the Super Bowl, there's all these sort of puff pieces coming out, sort of national media being like, oh, look at that. He always starts the press conference by letting a female ask a question. He did it in Tennessee with Teresa Walker. He does it in New England with Karen Guregian. They always get to ask the first question. And it's a way of empowering females in a male-dominated. There's a lot of gross, hairy schlubs like us, Matt, that are at these press conferences, and not a lot of females. So he wants to give them sort of make their life a little bit easier. And it was admirable, and it's fine. But something like this, I wonder, like, how much of a hit does the credibility take if this is what we think it is with the female reporter? It's sort of like, it kind of undoes all of that.
Yeah, no.
Hi, Karen. Karen, what do you got? Hi, Karen.
Hi, Mike.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he and Karen Garegan go back to when he was playing here. So I thought nothing of that. You know, I feel like that's just they go way back.
Of course.
So that was part of his thing. I didn't really, I wasn't paying much attention to when he was in Tennessee. And I wasn't even aware until like the news came out that Diana Rossini was the Titans beat reporter. So like there's obviously a relationship with them that goes way back to when he was in Tennessee, regardless of where it ultimately led to. Like there's obviously something there. But yeah, like even though you look at like Nicole Yang and Sophie Weller, like two female reporters, very good at their jobs, and he shows deference to them sometimes too. I wouldn't blame them if now they look at him a little differently. Like, so what was that all about? Like I totally would think that's fair if that's how they feel now.
There was also that time that he tut-tutted Lazar. He said, "Evan, shush," because I forget which. There was a female reporter asking a question, and he was like, "Evan, you got to wait, buddy."
Yeah, I undercut the route on Karen Garegan once, and I still wake up in the middle of the night thinking about it. I felt so bad. It was in the middle of training camp, so it's whatever.
And that's what I think, like Vrabel's whole thing, and I hate to sound like a tech CEO. This is a dorky thing, but his superpower is connecting with people. If he were to walk in this room within 5 seconds, he could make us feel like we're family, like we're brothers. He's going to roast you. He's going to be, direct with you. He's not going to avoid anything. He's going to, like, even coincidentally enough, remember his interview last summer with Diana Rossini, where he was talking about...
Are you doing the Sports Hub thing?
I'm just saying it's kind of coincidental that he did the sit down with her, and I'm referencing it. But remember, I forget what the question was, but he just talked about how he confronts people that park in handicap spots at Starbucks. How he'll wait for them at their car and be like, "What are you doing? Why did you do this?" And it's like, that's the kind... Like, he is very much a head-on guy. And... I won't accuse him of lying through the media, but certainly doesn't look as though he's being fully forthright thus far. And that's where he's going to have to build back some of the like trust and credibility that is sort of his hallmark. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, we got more Vrabel sound related to this that we're going to hear a little later. But yeah, like this is I never really thought this even during last year, even before all this stuff came out. I don't think that the whole operation is as buttoned up as he might want it to be portrayed. Like we had Stephon Diggs with multiple off-field stuff, and I know that he's always been sort of a wild off-field guy. But then you got Christian Barmore having the off-field stuff, and I know even that sort of predates Vrabel. But to me, it feels a little loose, and it's a little surprising because he would still have them ready on Sundays. To me, it always struck me as the atmosphere was sort of work hard, play hard. Like, I don't do what you want on your personal time. As long as you show up to work and you show up on Sundays, it's whatever.
Throw the late night bar party after they won in Denver and got back to Boston in the mix too.
There's that too. Very creepy looking body cam footage from that one. It looked like a found footage horror movie.
That was
looked like a Blair Witch Project.
That reminded me of like a 90s sports. That's something the 90s Patriots would have done. You know, come back from a road trip at 3 a.m. and go to a bar and light it up and get the cops involved.
I would have loved body cam with like the 92 Cowboys. That would have been something.
No, that's your precious eyes could not see that.
Too much. Be banned in 5 countries. Yeah. 617-779-0985. We're going to catch back up to the clock here, take a break. Matt Dolloff and Michael Hurley on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Boston's home for sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub. Boston sports, yeah, we got that covered. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Obviously, we want to make great decisions on and off the field. And we're hoping that with our time here on the field today, and that when we don't have a script and we're on the call-up periods, that we're making great decisions. And so the message will be the same for all our players, that we're trying to make great decisions, and any conversations that I've had with Stefan will remain between.
What's up, Matt Dolloff and Michael Hurley? We've got you until 5:30 today. We have switched gears to the Patriots, and that was Mike Vrabel last June, I believe, because that was, I think, during mandatory minicamp when the whole Stephon Diggs boat controversy came up. And he said, look, we want to make great decisions on and off the field.
We want to make great decisions on and off the field, making great decisions. And so the message will be the same. We're trying to make great decisions.
He said it 3 times, okay. He's really hammering home the great decisions. He also said when we don't have a script, so I don't know, maybe that was a scripted encounter that went on at Arizona. So maybe he's okay with the decision-making taking a little bit of a left turn there.
Well, do you agree with his statement, Mike Vrabel?
Which part of it?
Well, because it goes into great decisions. That he said what was shown is a completely innocent interaction.
Oh no, I thought that made him sound more guilty.
Yeah.
The forceful denial. How dare you say this about me? How dare you suggest anything otherwise?
The statement.
That's the reaction of a guilty person right there. You know, and I get it. Like the picture is like, yeah, like you can hug a platonic friend.
You just get it. To be in that spot, and for her to say, listen, sources meet. Like you can text. You don't need.
Yeah, you don't need to get in a hot tub with your source, right?
Which could happen. You know,
it's possible, I guess.
It's the fact that it was so far away from where he had to be.
There's enough dots to connect there.
Yeah.
Well, he was out there to scout draft prospects, right, in Arizona.
Yeah, before the league meeting.
He was interlocking fingers with the tackle at Arizona State.
He does like contact. You got to give him that. You know, he gets on the pro day. He's like, hit me hard and knock me down. He likes the physical contact. He's a physical guy, so maybe that's working in his favor.
That whole trip feels unnecessary, especially if they don't draft anyone from Arizona State. Probably should have just stayed in Foxborough there. But yeah, like going back to that statement and like that whole thing where he might have given himself an out there where it's like, that's going to stay between me and Stephon. Like it's pretty easy for him now to say, look, I gave a statement on the matter. Anything personal is going to stay between me and my family, which I completely understand. He's probably going to say something like that if and when he finally talks. Mike Reese said in his Sunday Notes today he's not expected to talk until, I think he said at the draft. So like, I don't know, maybe right after the first round he'll talk about it. So they're waiting for they're waiting until there's something more to talk about. Like if he talks next week, what are people like? There's people are going to ask him about this.
That's
like,
going to
be happen.
An 11 p.m. press conference after they make a first round pick on a Thursday night. Not exactly prime time.
No, but I think people will end up addressing it. It's not going to be something that's completely buried. But the Patriots, I think they're going to sweep this under the rug as much as they can. And I'm not saying they should do anything. I think at the end of the day, NFL locker rooms, that league, I think there's probably more than enough philandering going along around the league where there's sort of a vow of silence, so to speak, where it's like, I'll look the other way if you do. That whole thing.
I never put football in that category because the guys aren't like on the road half the year the way that baseball, hockey, and basketball players are.
And they would probably, I'm a man of faith. There's a deep drive by Castellanos.
There's a lot of faith. But yeah, no, I don't know how much a player necessarily cares about that. But again, I just think there's a credibility gap that needs to be addressed. And I assume will be. Like that's the thing, as this gets sorted out, the public part will take place after. I feel like there's a lot of private situations that need to be dealt with privately, and then you can strategize however you go about it publicly. But that's why I think right now you're in this sort of dead zone of commentary and from the parties involved. Yeah,
I think the issue with Vrabel, and again, like we don't want to get too much into the personal part of it, the non-football. I'm more interested in the football side of it. That's not a hypocritical thing by me. I'm pretty consistent. I'm not really into gossip, celebrity, salacious type. I've never really been into that. I'm a sports nerd, and I want to talk about sports. And so I kind of hate it when stories like this come out, especially when it's something local. It's like, well, we have to cover it, but I don't want to, but we have to. I'm more interested in how it affects the football team, and Vrabel lost a little bit of credibility, I think. He's talking about making good decisions off the field. Now, he's not practicing what he preaches. But to your point, he's pretty direct, and he's going to have to be a little more accountable for it anyway. Like, even if this, just say for the sake of this, that it was a completely innocent interaction and his response was completely true and accurate, it's still a distraction. He's still out there with a reporter getting photographed, and it's been the biggest story in the league all week. It's a distraction, and like, it's maybe a little convenient for him that it's maybe the deadest time of the year for players. Like Drake May is at the Masters, which we're probably going to hear from him later in the program. He's out there enjoying the golf, so it's like, I get it. It's not a busy time for the football operation, but this is going to be addressed and asked about at some point. And when you're talking about anything other than football, that's just not good. And if you're a player who's like, well, didn't you tell me I got to be responsible off the field? Like, what are you up to?
Yeah.
And so I don't know that long term it's going to really affect him, but I think he takes a hit.
I think, and this is not apples to apples, so don't say that I'm saying it is. But I think we are too close to it.
Don't say in the newspaper.
Don't tell them I got mad in the newspaper. I just think we are too close to it to really. There's things that you don't want to say when you're too close to it. Think back to however many years it was, 3 years ago when Urban Meyer was the coach of the Jaguars, maybe 4 years ago at this point, maybe 5 years ago, I forget.
It was 5 years ago. It was Trevor Lawrence's rookie year, 2021.
Okay, so, and we remember they went to Cleveland. They lost, I assume, because they lost a lot. The team flew back. Urban stayed behind. Video of him at the bar with like a young girl. And what did the whole world do, including us? Said, what a clown this guy is. Just no credibility. What a joke. What we've seen recently is not apples to apples. It's not the same thing, but I just think back to that and what you thought about what that did for the coach and his connection to the players. Like, that one was obviously beyond repair. I don't think this one is beyond repair, but there's work that's going to need to be done. And like I said, the reason we don't want to say too much about it right now is because that part it's not that. If you look at the timeline of what's going to happen and what needs to happen, you're not there yet.
Yeah, and I need to scratch an itch now that you mentioned it. Well, I don't know if you mentioned this, but the Super Bowl, like, I need to go back to it because that was the last time they played a football game, and it was, I think, easily their worst performance of the season.
It was gross.
And now you look at Vrabel, and it's like, well, look, I got to rewind here. I thought that was the worst game of the year for the coaching staff. They were not ready to go. I think a lot of that does fall on Josh McDaniels. I don't think he's not the best at adjusting in game. He's not the quickest. He's not the best play caller. I think he's outstanding at developing quarterbacks, and I think he has helped Drake May emerge as an elite quarterback in the NFL this year, and so I give him credit for that. But I think it was a bad night for him, and I think it was a bad night for Vrabel. I forget the exact thing, but there was something where he didn't challenge the early catch that might not have been a catch in the first quarter. Yeah. There were a few little moments there where they didn't feel totally in tune with the game.
Yeah.
And so now after this comes out, you got to look back in hindsight. You got to look at Vrabel. It's like, was your mind totally in on this game out there, or were you out doing other stuff? I think it's fair to question that now in retrospect, now that he's being caught by spies, cavorting with a female reporter at an adult-only resort. And it's like, was your mind totally on that football game? Because it doesn't feel like those Seahawks were locked in. And that's why I really love
Mike McDonald was not messing around. We know that.
I love Mike McDonald. You know why I like him? Because
he schedules meetings with his 3-year-old kid. He's like, Tuesday 4 to 5. I got you, buddy. That's it, though.
Yeah, but he doesn't talk in these like coach platitudes. Like he's very like boring and generic when he talks publicly. But I actually like that about him. He's no nonsense. He's all about the planning and the preparation and executing on Sunday. And I think he had that team completely prepared. They didn't do anything crazy as far as I know. All the analysts and the film guys were like, they didn't really do anything crazy. They just kind of ran their defense. But he had that team totally locked in, and he was locked in, and the Patriots coaching staff was not locked in. And that was disappointing because I thought throughout the season, I was giving Vrabel and that staff credit for being competitive every week. They didn't really have a letdown. They took care of business. They beat the teams they were supposed to beat. And they were competitive even in their losses. They didn't have a game where you came out of it saying they had no business showing up. They didn't even show up. They had no business being in that game. But then you come out of that Super Bowl, and it's like they had no business being on the same field with the Seahawks in that game.
Well, also, I mean, in game, Vrabel punted on 4th and 1. Remember early where it's like you kind of need to go for it on 4th and 1. And then remember they scored and made it 19-8.
This was it. When they scored the touchdown, they probably should have gone for 2.
They need it was 9. It was I'm trying to get the math right. They went to be down by 12 instead of 11. So they kicked the extra point to go down 19-7.
There's no difference between 11 and 12. That's why you
No. There's no difference between 12 and 13.
12 and 13, right.
So you had to go for 2 to make it a 2%, and they just didn't.
Yeah, you might as well go for 2 in that spot. They didn't go for it. That was the one I was trying to think of. Thank you, Hurley. That you weren't totally dialed in.
No.
So what the hell were you up to during Super Bowl week? Were you 100% focused on the game? Doesn't feel like it, especially after this stuff came out.
I think he's a good coach. I think he's important for the culture. I think he's much needed. But
I'm not saying he's a fraud or he actually sucks. I think he's a very, very good coach.
But it's a good point by you to now suddenly look back and say, well, was the focus a little astray?
Yeah, I think it's completely fair to question. 617-779-0985. Going to take a quick break here. We'll come right back. Matt Dolloff and Michael Hurley on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Boston's home for sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub. In this town, sports happens 24/7. We're Boston's home for sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
What did you learn about yourself and something that is going to last with you?
Well, I think you got to get back to work. I think it's humbling. I think that's the biggest thing about it. It's humbling. You got to get back to work. I think it's, when you're so close and within reach, you kind of just want to, you want that feeling and want to, everybody says you'll be back. It's not that easy. So we got to get back to work. And I'm looking forward to trying to prove to myself and that we can get back and just have another year to get a chance at it. And everybody's got the same goal at this time of year to get back to that game. So I think, knowing that we were there and had a chance at it is just that more kind of fulfilling for me and able to, kind of reach that.
The Sports Hub, Matt Dolloff and Michael Hurley. We got you until 5:30 today. We are talking Patriots this hour. That was Drake May, who was at the Masters. He is one of the patrons at the Masters this week. Forgive me, I don't know who that was during doing the interview with him. But I heard that audio and I wanted to play it and I wanted to touch on that a little bit early, and I'll let you scratch an itch that you've been waiting to scratch on this program. That what stood out to me about that sound, and look, maybe I'm reading into it too much, but I guess that's what we do in this business. We read into things, we listen to audio and read into it. He's talking a little bit slower. Like from a guy who's watched and listened to basically every media availability from Drake May. Talks very fast, kind of mumbles. I've compared him to Boomhauer, the famous character from King of the Hill, where you don't even know what he's saying half the time. Drake May, it's almost like an excited puppy the way he talks over the first couple of years. Very fast, and it's almost like everything's sped up around him. That to me is a little bit of a sign that it's kind of slowed down for him a little bit, and so maybe the game sort of slowed down for him like it did during the season last year. What also stood out to me is that I think he's saying the right things about that loss and going into next year. And so I feel better about Drake May going forward than I did before that. I didn't feel bad necessarily, but I feel a little bit better about him going forward based on that comment. And I get it. Talk is cheap. Actions speak louder than words. But it is a fair point that, you can't just say, well, he'll be back. He'll be back in the Super Bowl. A lot of guys go to the Super Bowl once and never get back. But to me, that is sort of a twofold thing. I think one of the big issues with guys that never get back is that the team around him is never good enough. I think you look at a guy like Jalen Hurts, for example, in the Eagles. He's had an unbelievable team around him. So they got back.
They got back
because they had a great team around him. And not to take away from Jalen Hurts, I don't think he's a guy that can win games by himself necessarily. I think he's closer to a guy that needs a team. But he's come up big in big games, and he has that sort of will to win. Drake May, he doesn't want to have that feeling of losing the Super Bowl. He doesn't want to play that bad in the playoffs ever again. He wants to get back. If he told that interviewer, it's well, it's just one game. It's at the end of the day, we have the best job in the world. That would have made me feel worse, where it's don't you want to win that game? Don't you want to get your redemption and get your ring and all that? So, if he's true and genuine and he can show it out on the field, then feels like he's motivated to get right back to the Super Bowl. I don't know necessarily they're going to get back to the Super Bowl in 2026, but this is to the point you want to make. I think they got to do what they can this year to try to get back as soon as they can, because the longer they don't get back, the more worried we're going to be that they're never going to get back.
We got to get back to work.
Yeah, I mean, not to rain on your parade, there's an element at play there. You ever been to Georgia? Things are a little bit slower in Georgia.
I've never. Oh no, I went down there for the Super Bowl. But that was Atlanta. I don't know if that's truly Georgia.
We take things a little bit slower down here in the South. We talk a little. Y'all up in the North are in such a rush. You're in such a hurry all the time. So I wonder if he was just impacted by his environment.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
But no, I wrote this the other day at Boston Sports Journal because just kind of you've used the term scratching an itch a lot today, and I would just say this scratched an itch for me because in credit, like most things in life. Credit to Alex Barth for getting me down this path. I was talking to Barth last week, and we were just talking about next season, and I was like, you know what? The Vegas total at 9.5. Robert Kraft saying he just wants to make the playoffs. I think that is underestimating what this team is capable of, and no one in the world is saying improve upon your 14 wins in a Super Bowl appearance. That is outrageous. But here's the reason I think, let me ask you first. What are your expectations, win total-wise, division-wise, playoff-wise? What do you think next year?
Yeah, to the over-under point, I think you got to have a baseline of 10 wins. Yeah, I think you have to hit that over. I think you got to get back into the playoffs. My expectation is get to the divisional and see what happens, because I look at the league and I look at the landscape of the AFC. I think they did have the path sort of open up for them in terms of the opposing quarterbacks they had to face. Justin Herbert has never been a good playoff performer. C.J. Stroud feels like he's had his brain removed the last couple years.
People wanted him benched at halftime, and they were right.
And then Jarrett Stidham in the blizzard in Denver. So, that was one of the easiest opposing quarterback pass I've ever seen. And I think I don't want to take away from them. They took care of business, but I just feel like the Chiefs are going to be back in the mix. And if you have to play the Bills, that's a different kind of challenge. I know the Bills are historical losers, but Josh Allen is a completely different animal than a C.J. Stroud or a Justin Herbert, especially in the playoffs. He's at least put up numbers in the playoffs, so Drake May would probably have to go toe-to-toe with him in terms of the plays they make. But my expectation is definitely get into the playoffs, and you got to get through the divisional round at least. If they get to the divisional and then they lose to the Chiefs or the Bills, or they lose to a great quarterback who they just can't stop because sometimes it gets to that point, I'm not going to say that's a hugely disappointing season. And look, this is something that's been repeated ad nauseum. It's not an original take. They could have a better season with a worse record because of their easier or harder schedule next year. But look, I like that Vrabel came out and sort of said, yeah, I don't know. I had to talk to Robert about that. The expectation is Super Bowl every year. Vrabel needs to say that. He needs to come out and say, no, we expect to win the Super Bowl. You gotta set that expectation. You can't be like Kraft and say, well, if we just get into the playoffs, no, you got to do everything you can to get back to the Super Bowl. I just think Kraft was being realistic about it, because I think realistically this is a team that's going to be in the wild card mix. Maybe they win the AFC East again, but I think at best you're talking about maybe a 3 or 4 seed if the teams we're expecting to be back in the mix are back in the mix.
Well, I don't
think it's fair to say they need to be the 2 seed, win 12, 13, 14 games again, get all the way back to the Super Bowl. I don't think that's a fair expectation. And that's not to say that they shouldn't try. I just don't think that this year is the all-in year. That was my whole thing, is that I'm not against them making moves. But this isn't the year where it's this is your last chance. You have to do everything you can to get back to the Super Bowl this year. I don't really see it that way. I feel like maybe 2027 is that year, because that's going to be the last year that Drake May is not making any money. And so they do have to try to get back the best they can while Drake May is on his rookie deal. I just don't think it's realistic for this year. But they got to get into the playoffs and get to the divisional round, and then, we'll see how it goes from there.
Here's why I think that's still underestimating it. And there's things we don't know, will the Bengals put it together again? I'm not sure. Will Jesse Minter lead the Ravens to playoff success?
Yeah, Ravens, another one.
I'm not entirely sure. Will the Chiefs come back? There's a lot, those parts you don't know about. But when it comes to the Patriots, I think 10 wins needs to be the absolute bare bones minimum of expectations. And I think you need to look more at 11, 12, and I don't think it's unrealistic to think they should be favored in the division. And here's why. The bottom of the division, absolute dog food. The Dolphins are literally tearing it down to the studs. The Jets, the only reason they didn't fire Aaron Glenn is because they knew they'd have the 11th best coaching candidate available, much like Craig Breslow with the Red Sox. They just figured, you know what, there's too many openings this year. We're not going to get a good coach. So they're going to go 5-1 in their division. They're going to sweep the Dolphins and the Jets, and they're going to split with the Bills. I think that's fully reasonable. So you're talking about this hard schedule, not you, the general you, say hard schedule, you're going to have this big crash to earth. Well, your division is that easy that you're starting with 5 wins, which leaves you with 11 other games to go 6-5 in, or 5-6 to get to 10 or 11 wins. And I just think it's obviously a challenging schedule. You've got Green Bay and Minnesota. You've got, the Raiders should be an easy win for you. Pittsburgh, you should avenge that one. Denver at home is going to be a tough game. You go on the road to the Bears, the Lions, the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Seahawks, the Jaguars. It is an absolutely difficult schedule. There's no doubt. But you're telling me you love your coach quarterback combo.
Again, not me.
Not you, Matt Dolloff.
The straw man.
The general you. You love this quarterback combo, and I do too. They can't go 500 against good teams. That should be to expect anything less is to really not have the right outlook on what you should expect from the New England Patriots. I think there should be some sort of baseline expectation of going at least 500 against good teams. I don't think that's at all difficult, over the top.
So yeah, I don't want to do math on the air too much, but I don't know exactly how many games they have against what you would say is a good team. Call it 10.
A bunch. I mean,
so if they go 5-1 in the AFC East and 5-5 against good teams, there's a couple games left over there. That's 10 wins. So that's the baseline.
That's the
right?
baseline.
And look, I'm not a big schedule guy either. The way I look at it is that it's really hard to go into a season looking at games where it's like you have no chance of winning. And I look at Seattle, at Kansas City. I'll give you those. Like you can pencil in a loss with those. So I'll give you that. The Detroit game, it sounds like it could be in Germany, which I actually like. I prefer that over going to Detroit because it sort of levels the playing field. Now they both have to go travel out there.
Sure.
It's not a home game for Detroit, so I'll take that. Yeah, at the Bears is a tough one.
At Jacksonville.
At Jacksonville, like who knows what the Jaguars are going to be. You never really know
here's
from year to year.
an important thing on this. We talk about the Patriots. Do you know what the Bills' opponents are?
They got a similarly tough because they're playing the same NFC North.
So their home games: Chiefs, Ravens, Lions, and Bears, and they have road trips to Green Bay, Rams, Texans, and Vikings. So like they have a difficult schedule too. So you put those together and you factor in who do you like better as a head coach, Mike Vrabel or Joe Brady? How's the Joe Brady era sounding so far? Like that has the potential to be a mess. The way that they've handled shuffling Sean McDermott out the door to promote their offensive coordinator, who may or may not be a leader of men, quote unquote. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He doesn't seem to have the je ne sais quoi to be the head coach. We'll see. Like, there's a chance that doesn't go well. And then I think the biggest thing, the guy we heard from at the beginning, this was supposed to be Drake May's leap from year 2 to year 3. Remember the Josh Allen comparisons from his rookie year? We're like, all right, Josh had an okay sophomore season. His third year in the league, he became a superstar in 2020. Drake May kind of jumped the gun on that and he took such a massive step from year 1 to year 2 that there's no way his year 2 to year 3 leap can be similar to what Josh Allen did. Josh Allen went from 20 touchdowns and 9 interceptions his second year to 37 touchdowns and 10 interceptions his third year. Like Drake May with, 31 and 8 last year I don't think he's going to have 48 and 10 this year.
No, I think there's a good chance that last year goes down as Drake May's best season of his career on paper with the passer rating.
No, I think he's going to get better. It's just going to be
I'm just saying in terms of the stats, is he ever going to have a higher passer rating than 113 or whatever it was?
113 and a half, maybe. The 72% completion rate was kind of nuts. He had a lot of good sure-handed receivers. But the point is, he's going to get better. He's still so young. He's still 23. He's still younger than most quarterbacks in the league. Like I just think there's this element of like, maybe it's still the Bills division, and I get it. Josh Allen is that guy, but I think we need to raise the expectations. I think they should be looking at 11 wins to start with, and you should be considering like if they don't win the division because the Bills end up winning 14 games, then so be it. But if I don't think the Bills are going to win more than 12.
Yeah. No, I mean, like you look at the Bills, I guess that's a fair point about the Bills schedule that is sort of what happens around here is that we sort of have tunnel vision. We start to act like the Patriots are the only team with a tough schedule. It's like, no, there's 32 teams. There are other teams that have tough teams on their schedule.
It does need to be stated as sort of a reminder. The schedule last year was just unbelievably easy. Like there's no getting, and that's why you win. That's why you could say this team might be a little bit better, but there's no way they're going to flirt with 14 wins.
No, I mean if they do, then this is I think that's my point about last year is that expectations can change over the course of the season. If they come out rip off 6 wins to start in a row and they win one of those tough road games, depending on what the schedule looks like, maybe we're talking about okay, now at a minimum you got to be in the conference championship, and maybe you are going right back to the Super Bowl. We'll see.
And there's so many questions in the conference. Like you have Denver and New England was there last year. It's possible neither one makes it back next year, depending on like I said. Are the Bengals ever going to get back? Talk about a team that should get back.
That's a good example.
Are they ever going to get back?
And that's a good example of Joe Burrow, I think, is
he's the man.
Great player. The team around him is not so much, and the organization he's in. I think that's the reason they haven't been back. It's not because of Joe Burrow.
I agree. And their defense last year, remember the Patriots went there. There was all the stories that based on, why can't I think of the advanced stat? The
QBR?
No, the defense based on
the defensive one. DVOA.
DVOA was the worst defense in like 65 years or something. They didn't end up being as bad as advertised, but that's the point where it's like, all right, we got the quarterback, we got to get the receivers, we got to get the linemen, we got to, and you forgot about it a whole side of the ball, and it creates it is a very delicate thing and a difficult thing to balance, but it is a good reminder. Like I do, just like I believe in Drake May, I believe in Joe Burrow. I think he's the man. Hasn't been back in 5 years.
Yeah, I know. Like they're gonna have the clock is ticking, and I think like if you go into next year and you don't actually have that true number one receiver, we'll see what happens with A.J. Brown. Like, there's going to be a more urgency, I think, to actually push back to the Super Bowl, especially while you have Drake May on his rookie deal with like an elite quarterback on his rookie deal is the best asset you can have on any sports team, basically. So you got to strike while that iron's hot at some point, so I get it. And I think they should be better. Like, even if he doesn't have as high a passer rating, he could be better just in terms of his decision-making, making better decisions at the end of games, making more winning plays, and that whole thing. Like, I think they should be better just by virtue of blocking it better. Like I was saying going into the offseason, their biggest need is offensive blocking. Like, people want to zero in on left tackle. It's like, just get guys that can block.
Well,
they got a starting guard who's, when he's on the field, Elijah Vera Tucker, very good athletic left guard. They got a real fullback. If Josh McDaniels insists on a fullback, get yourself a real fullback. They got one. And they got a tight end that can block. And they might get another tight end in the draft that can block. And so,
do you know who that's going to unlock? Travion Henderson.
Yes.
He was looking unathletic by the end of the year because there was such a stress on him to hold on to the ball, to not fumble, to not mess up, that all of his natural athleticism was basically taken away. If you put him in a system where he gets that one block and he can just hit the hole at full speed, like, there's a reason you drafted him in the second round instead of all the receivers that were all there still on the table, because of that athletic. And we saw glimpses. His first touch was the preseason kick return for a touchdown. You're like, oh. Yeah. And slowly throughout the year, he kind of had that taken away from him. And I don't think it was on him. It was on his circumstance. So that's going to help the offense in a big way.
617-779-0985. We got to take a break here, and then we'll finish up this hour. Matt Dolloff and Michael Hurley on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
You got to get back to work.
Boston's home for sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub. Boston sports. We're fans just like you. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Better settle down on that line. Settle down.
Careful here. Careful here. Rory is wet at 11. And this plot just thickened.
That'll go wrong.
And that went very right for Rory. It's a double bogey 6 for Rory McIlroy. Biting that lip.
98.5 The Sports Hub, Matt Dolloff and Michael Hurley. We got you until 5:30 today. I'm going to take a really quick one this break because I've been a little slow on the clock today. Hurley, I apologize. That's my fault. George was on my ass last one. But yeah, just a quick minute here on the Masters. And it's a tradition like no other. And I'm not talking about the Masters. I'm talking about Rory McIlroy crapping his pants. He was wet, as that announcer said. I was like, excuse me?
That sounds personal.
So yeah, double bogey on 4, and I believe he just bogeyed 6. So he has now dropped to a tie for 4th with Scotty Scheffler, who's been making a good run at it. Russell Henley's making a good run. He's at 10 under through 9. Cam Young in the lead. Justin Rose is lurking there. He's on par 5 right now. Is it illegal to do Masters play-by-play on the radio?
Everything, you can't even talk about the Masters before, during, or after. There's strict rules on this stuff.
Serious. Very, very strict. I saw something going around, a viral. Someone screamed, "Give me back my son," after the guy hit the swing. I believe that's a reference to the Mel Gibson movie, Ransom, which I saw in the theater, by the way.
I was like 96?
10 years old. I was like 10 years old. It's a solid movie.
It's a different time. 10-year-olds would go see Ransom.
Yeah. Gary Sinise is the villain, I believe. It was a solid film. A different time, the 90s. But yeah, I do love that you have a guy like Rory. I don't hate Rory. I have nothing personal against him. But I do love having a guy that you can rely on to choke every year. And it's just that's one of golf's greatest traditions is Rory McIlroy blowing it in the tournaments. And I get it. He had his triumph last year, and so good for him. I think he's too good to come out of his career and not have a green jacket on his resume, so that's great. But he's one of those guys. This is what he's gonna. This is on the list if he doesn't make a comeback here. He had the biggest lead, the biggest 36-hole lead ever. But the saying goes that the Masters starts the back 9 on Sunday, which is a little counterproductive. I believe the Masters themselves tweeted that this morning.
What is that?
That the Masters don't actually begin until the back 9 on Sunday, which is a little weird for this. They tout their prestige. They have the honorary starters. They want you. They want all eyeballs on all week. No, just tune in. Have a back half on Sunday. That's all you need to watch. But and it's still a great. I mean, it's going to be an unbelievable finish based on this leaderboard. But I do like a good traditional, a good reliable choker.
I wrote about that a lot. I think it might have been when A-Rod was about to win the World Series, where it's like, damn, we're losing another loser, and it's in the nicest term, but just someone who loses a lot because we lost Peyton Manning and A-Rod around the same time. A-Rod, I think the Yankees won in 2009, and the Colts won in 2009 too, right? So it was like
it was a bad year. Bad year for the ones that like chokers.
It was a barrage of
a bad year for Jim Murray.
True.
Big into sports schadenfreude.
So luckily the Maple Leafs still haven't. They did break through and make it to the second round recently, but that's about as far as they made it. So
yeah, we can always rely on them.
You still have the Leafs. Who else do you have in the sports world? And Rory last year managed to win the Masters and choke it away in the same day. So that was kind of you kind of got the best of both worlds there. And I root for Rory generally. I don't dislike the guy, but I do kind of like watching the meltdown. Yeah. It's just this sickness. If you're a human being, you got to be honest about it and just be like, you know what? It's kind of funny.
Yeah, no, it is. You can't help but laugh sometimes. I liked having Brett Favre back in the day, and I know he won, obviously beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl, but you could generally rely on him to just throw just the absolute worst interception you've ever seen with the game on the line. He did that so much.
The NFC Championship game, Minnesota, New Orleans, was maybe the hardest I've laughed watching sports.
That's my favorite call in the history of sports. Intercepted, I can't believe what I'm seeing right now. They were so dejected.
It's the Super Bowl, man!
You could take a knee and kick a 50-yard field goal. It was true. They didn't even have to throw that ball at all. They said during the play, he is passing here. I don't know why.
Justin Rose, by the way, moving into a tie for the lead. This is a chaotic Sunday at the Masters.
This is great. All right, 617-779-0985. As I talk about the clock, I run us over a couple minutes again. But Hurley's going to give you a look at the headlines. We're going to come back, and we're actually going to talk about the local basketball club. That should be the biggest team in town right now. They got a chance to win it all. So we are going to talk some Celtics next. Matt Dolloff and Michael Hurley right back. No commercials. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Or you can elect to kick a 50-yard field goal for 4 points. I love that. Oh, wait a minute.
From the Town Fair Tire Studio, this is
Strong finger all up and go.
This is home of the 18-time world champion Boston Celtics. WBZ FM and HD Boston 98.5. The Sports Hub. Sports Hub headlines presented by Celsius Energy Drinks.
The Boston Red Sox red hot at the plate. They are currently up 7-1 over the Cardinals as they look to win a second consecutive series. Jarren Duran and Wilson Contreras each with 3 RBIs. Brian Bayo pitching well, just the lone blemish being a Jordan Walker solo home run. Red Sox heading to Minnesota for a 3-game set starting tomorrow with Garrett Crochet on the mound. The Bruins and Celtics both in action tonight. The Celtics closing the book on their regular season in Orlando. Coverage begins on 105.7 WROR at 5:30 with tip-off at 6. Bruins play the Blue Jackets at 6 in Columbus. If the season were to end today, they would match up with the Hurricanes in the first round, so perhaps some good reason for them to play for 2 points. You can catch pregame coverage here on the Sports Hub starting at 5:30. And in golf, as we just mentioned, Rory McIlroy plummeting down the leaderboard. He doubled the 4th and bogeyed the 6th. He's now 9 under, 2 shots behind Cam Young, who's trying to win his first major, and Justin Rose, who climbed into a tie atop the leaderboard. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Boston Prolotherapy. Don't let joint pain keep you off the course, or trail. Eliminate that pain with Dr. Franke of Boston Prolotherapy. I'm Michael Hurley. Next headlines at 5 p.m.
The Sports Hub. 3 legendary franchises on one legendary radio station. It's the Sports Hub. The Bruins, the Celtics, the Patriots, the Sox, the Revs, and you. We're Boston's home for sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Listen, the New York Knicks don't scare a soul, not even on Halloween. And here's the thing that I'm going to tell you. I understand that Jason Tatum, he didn't have a great night shooting wise, but he didn't come back this season to be Batman. He came back this season to be Robin and even sometimes Alfred, depending on what Peyton Pritchard and Derek White is doing throughout the course of the game. So am I putting a lot of stock into this? Am I going to flip the script and say, oh, now the Knicks are the favorite to win the East? Hell no. It is still the Boston Celtics. The Celtics still have the most championship experience out of anybody in the Eastern Conference.
98.5 The Sports Hub. Matt Dolloff and Michael Hurley here with you until 5:30. That was Kendrick Perkins, Celtics champion from 2008, who's made a name for himself in the media by having outrageous takes on ESPN and making people upset. And so that was after the Celtics lost to the Knicks recently. That's what you said, George. So I think he's kind of whistling past the graveyard a little bit there, because the Celtics, I mean, how do you not go back to that series last year? And now you have even less of a team than you even had last year around Tatum and Brown. They lost that series even with Drew Holiday and that team, and they've sort of stripped that down. And look, I think they've done a good job retooling. Brad Stevens has anyway, with considering the circumstances. They've gotten the most out of a guy like Neemias Queta, having easily basically a breakout year by his standards, and Peyton Pritchard, a solid player. But the Knicks, and look, they made a couple of moves to improve their depth at the trade deadline. And I get that, I wouldn't say they're the favorite to win the Eastern Conference either. I'm with Perk on that one. But to look at the Celtics-Knicks matchup, I don't know how you come out of that loss recently and you get a little queasy about having to play the Knicks again. And I'd look at the Celtics and I say, well, you should get your revenge. You should go out and avenge that series loss. You are better than the Knicks. You do have the most championship experience, playoff experience. Like, these guys were in the conference final in, 2019? Like, Tatum's second year in the league? Like, they've been to a ton of conference finals. They've been to 2 NBA finals. They've won a championship. You can't take any of that away from them. But this is a team, this is the point we're at with this team, Hurley, is that if you want to be in the conversation with the 80s Celtics, you got to win 2 or 3 championships. Maybe you want to say they got to win 3. Like, that's the talent level we're at. That's the talent we're at. You can't be one of these teams that only wins 1 championship.
And is it unfair to say you kind of got to get through the East this year? Like, this is a year where you should be able to get through the East. I know Detroit has had their number. I know the Knicks have had their number. The Knicks thing is real, though. And I agree with you. I would have said probably up until leading into that game, and I know they weren't at full strength. They I don't know if that was by design or not. I would have said there's no way you lose again to the Knicks. But there's just something about the way the Knicks treat the Celtics games that has to scare you. And I'm glad I'm not a big gambling man, because I would have bet my whole house that the Celtics were not going to lose a series to the Knicks last year. And every game that they blew and couldn't come back when they couldn't come back in New York, when they blew the lead at home, I was like, you know what? I know nothing about sports anymore. So, like, if I were to sit here today and lay it out, I'd say the Celtics are going to beat the Knicks in 5 or 6 games. But in reality, I know it's probably the opposite. Like, that's what the Knicks are doing to the Celtics. And I think it's a real hurdle that's sitting that will be waiting for them in the second round.
Yeah, no, it's kind of like a ghost. It's a demon. They got to get that demon out. And so I don't know how the Celtics themselves don't look at it like a little nervously, like the nervous energy, like they showed it in that series last year, where this is sort of like almost like it's hard to quantify. I think it makes people uncomfortable to talk about because you can't quantify it necessarily. But like the games start to get tight, it starts to get close, and in that series, Joe Mazzulla had a terrible series. He didn't know how to adjust. They just start chucking up threes. They start throwing up bad shots. And they just sort of fall apart. I feel like that happened way too much in that series. And, like, again, with the experience and the talent level, I feel like they've almost sort of underachieved when you look at the last 6-7 years. And that's not to say they should have 3 championships by now, but maybe they
should have beaten the Knicks.
They should have beaten the Knicks last year. They should have been in the conference final last year. And if they get to the conference final, maybe they do beat the Pacers and they're in the NBA finals. Maybe they're going back-to-back, because I think the experience thing is real in that league. I think it takes a while for teams to really figure that all out and break through and win that first title. So I'm not.
Look at the Thunder having to go 7 against the Pacers, who were clearly an inferior team. So
that's what I was going to say, is that, like, I think if it's Celtics Thunder last year, maybe the Celtics win that series because they've been on that stage before. And then you look at the Thunder and say, look, you're a great team. You'll get back and you'll win it next year, but you weren't quite ready to push through there. And that's why I don't necessarily get on them too much for losing to the Warriors in 2022, even though they had a 2-1 lead and they lost 3 in a row. But, like, that's the Warriors. That's a dynasty. Mm-hmm. That's one of the greatest players of all time that you lost to. So I'm not going to get on them too much for losing that series. But that Knicks series last year, and then this most recent regular season game, the Celtics fans are pretty happy. A Celtics fan has never had a bad day ever. The Green Teamers, like that. So I don't get how, as a true Boston fan, if you're a true Boston fan at your core, how does that game not make you a little bit queasy about how the playoffs are going to go?
Well, let me argue with myself a little bit on that, because Jaylen Brown did not play in that game. And you talk about, like, you're bringing back all these memories when they just were chucking up threes sort of hopelessly last year, and while letting that series get away from them. It feels as if Jaylen Brown is the straw that stirs the drink. If he's the engine of the offense, you're going to have less of that, just because you've seen it even when things are going good. Tatum will take the ball up and just, with 13 seconds left in the shot clock, chuck up a 25-footer and clank it off the back iron. It's like, well, that was a completely empty possession. It feels as though there's less settling when Jaylen Brown is at least the engine, like I said. So does that change in the playoffs if there's less of Tatum running the offense? If it's more, because the work Tatum's done off the ball since coming back is like, oh, that's new. I like the way that looks. You know, there's something. Like
the triple doubles have been good. That's a good thing.
His playmaking, his rebounding, and the fact that he's setting screens for Jaylen Brown. Teams don't know how to defend it because they're like, wait, what? But he's good and he's good. And then when they overcommit to that, it leaves Neemias Queta all alone in the paint for an easy 2. And it's just like, this is better basketball. And I do like their chances there in that series with Jaylen Brown, but still, outside of the X's and O's in the paper and the rosters and everything, it's just the sort of I don't know. You talk about Celtics fans never having a bad day. I bet they had a bad day when the camera kept showing all those New York fans in the alley watching the game last year going bananas and bonkers and crowd surfing all over each other because the Knicks were about to win a second-round playoff series. Like, that was a bad day, right? And there's just something about the energy and the attitude of the Knicks and their fans and that whole thing. Like, I think they named a street after them last year. A little stupid, a little ridiculous, but it tells you what it means to them. There's something there that you're heading for in a crash course in whatever it is 2 weeks from now.
The 2024-25 Knicks Boulevard, that doesn't really roll off the tongue.
We made it to the conference finals. It's very similar, but just as embarrassing as the Colts' famous AFC finalist banner from 2014.
Jason Tatum, you still sleep with your mother, you bitch ass.
Good job cutting that off there, Georgie.
I did know that last year, so.
I think it's fair to look at Tatum even without Jaylen Brown in that game. 3 turnovers in the fourth quarter. Celtics 5 turnovers as a team. Just not executing down the stretch. Josh Hart catches fire. Jalen Brunson with the clutch shot at the very end there.
Josh Hart had his second highest scoring total of the year.
I think it's fair to look at the Celtics and it's like how do you look when the games get close? And that's something that I want to get into on the other side, which is I don't think it's realistic that you can expect to win a championship the same way they did 2 years ago. But I do have some stats that I think are going to back up that argument. We're going to get to it on the other side. 617-779-0985. If you want to call in and talk Celtics, we are going to continue that conversation. We're going to take a quick break here, though. Matt Dolloff and Michael Hurley on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Ben Affleck, Mark Wahlberg, Matt Damon.
Boston's home for sports. 98.5
the Sports Hub.
Joe, you clinched the second seed tonight. Do you take a moment? Does the team take a moment to just kind of savor the accomplishment of 55 wins, a second seed, and kind of appreciate how far you've come, even though there's more to be done?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you had a couple words there. I think just gratitude and appreciation for each other. I mean, regardless of what happens in off seasons, the process of the way we play is always going to be the goal. That's just how it is, and that's how it has to be. So you do have to have a sense of gratitude and perspective. I think in order to try and, get better as a team throughout Sunday in the playoffs is having that perspective and knowing, it takes a lot of work. A lot of stuff goes into that. And it starts with our players, but, also everybody in our travel party and our organization. It takes, by the time you get to the tip-off, there's 1,000 moving parts, a bunch of people in the organization. And so I think you have to be, grateful to them. And then, you have to be grateful to the players, for the work that they put in. And we got to keep going after it.
.985 The Sports Hub. Matt Dolloff and Michael Hurley got you until 5:30 today. We're talking Celtics. That was obviously Joe Mazzulla, who I think, I'll say up front, I think he's done an unbelievable job this year, and I wouldn't be surprised if he wins Coach of the Year. I think Joe would hate it based on his comments when they asked him how he would feel. I think he basically said what any coach would say in its essence, that it's not about me, it's about the players, was the point he was making. But Mazzulla obviously has to take it a step further and say, it's a stupid award. Shouldn't even have it. Shouldn't even have Coach of the Year. And I get it. I'm not an expert on the rest of the league, but I feel like Mazzulla should be in the conversation for that, for sure. Question is, for me, how does it look in the playoffs? And he mentioned there the process of how we play is up there on the list of most important things for the Celtics. The way they play, you could argue, was their downfall in that series against the Knicks last year. And NBA playoffs, it's always a little different than the regular season. You can't just chuck up threes. You can't rely on making 28 threes a game or whatever. Did they set a new record the other night, or they broke the record? They were close. They tied themselves, right?
They tied it. Yeah, it's been done a few times, but Garza had the ball with 40 seconds left and went for a dunk, and everyone was like, dude, a dunk? Hit the three.
Yeah, seriously.
Set a record.
But I feel like you gotta ride the hot hand when they're hot. Yes. If you're pouring in threes and nobody can miss, yes. But when you start to miss and the shots aren't falling, you got to make adjustments. You have to adjust during the game. Team starts to come back. You got to call timeouts. I know Mazzulla had problems with timeouts his first year, and he's gotten better with that. I would hope that he learned something about how to handle in-game stuff with that series against the Knicks last year. You can't just bang your head against the wall and start chucking up these desperation shots when the game starts to go the other way for you. You have to adjust according to how the game's going and how your players look on the court. And I feel like he does get a little too lost in the numbers and the percentages and things like that, where at the end of the day, we are talking about human beings. We're not talking about numbers on a sheet. And you got to be a little more in tune with the game and the situation and things like that. And look, maybe he's a little resistant to that because it would mess up their math. It would screw up their math if their equations, if they start to take fewer threes and they attempt more twos. I mean, that's what my favorite thing about Jaylen Brown's season this year is I think he led the league in 2-point attempts or something like that. Took more 2-point attempts than ever. And it's a half-court game in the playoffs. You can't just be the 3-point show all the time. And look, I get it. When you're hot, you're hot. You do that. But when you start going cold, you got to find other ways to score. You can't just lean on the same strategy every game when it's not going right for you. And I think they're in a situation now where they got to prove that they learned from that series last year.
And to your point, the only reason the other night was close, and again, Jaylen Brown didn't play, so that has to be sort of how you start with it. The only reason it was close was because Baylor Shireman was 6 of 7 from 3, which is, I would say, something that's not going to happen too often.
I'm starting to fall in love with Baylor Shireman, and I've been telling my wife about him.
Yeah, that's personal, but I understand because I was watching him in the preseason and I was like, can they even carry this guy on the roster?
He's growing on me, though. He definitely deserves to be in there. And a question to you guys in tightening the rotation for the playoffs, it typically does, become a 7-8 man rotation. Who are these players on the bench that are going to break into the rotation if you guys were coaching the Celtics?
Right. I mean, that's a fair question. I mean, they had a lineup the other night, it was like last week, where I think it was Brown, Tatum, Pritchard, Cada, and White. And I was like, that's their best five, right? That's putting your best five on the court, but it's not always those five guys on the court. And then you get after that, Hauser, I think is definitely in that rotation. Shireman, to your point, George, he might be playing his way into the rotation.
Well, it's funny because earlier in the year, it was Jordan Walsh. Jordan Walsh could do no wrong in November.
Garza and Vucevic and Cada, logjam there at the bigs. You would think that Garza has to sacrifice some minutes there for Vucevic and Cada.
And Vucevic hasn't been good since coming back. He has not looked right.
No, he might be.
I'm excited about him, though. I think he needs time to get acclimated. It is good, though, that he is back before the postseason, though, to get him acclimated and his feet wet.
I thought he was a good pickup. They needed some kind of big depth, and they get a guy with veteran experience that can give them something on offense. I liked that pickup. But look, I get it about the rotation, but that it's going to come down to how Tatum and Brown play, and you can't turn the ball over in the fourth quarter when you're trying to hold on to a lead. You can't just keep chucking up threes when they're not falling. You got to change it up in the middle of the game. You can't just set the plan and then stay the course no matter what happens. And I think Mazzulla sort of falls into that trap a little too much sometimes, and I think he's got something to prove, even though I don't think he's fully proven it with the way this regular season has gone. Can I throw some stats at you, Hurley?
No.
I want to throw some stats at you. I know I've been on anti-stats this whole break here. But Joe Murray and Mark Dodaro were touching on this earlier today, and I was thinking something similar, and I wanted to look into it. Forgive me if I'm off by a game or two here. I had to throw this together right before the show, but Celtics against the other top 10 teams in the league. I didn't want to go against playoff teams because now there's technically 20 playoff teams.
It's 2/3 of the league.
So I don't want to factor in how they play against the Miami Heat and teams at the bottom of the very bottom of the playoff. So against the other top 10 teams. 9-14 this year.
So
that's no good.
So
that was throughout the season.
The Thunder, Spurs, Pistons, Nuggets, Knicks, Lakers, Cavs, Rockets. Does that get you to 10?
The Timberwolves, I believe, and the Lakers. Did you say Lakers?
I did.
So I believe that's the list.
Okay.
And they're 2-4 since Tatum came back. And I know that maybe there's other games to your point about maybe they didn't have both of them in all those games.
Right.
But
Brown got ejected in one. Tatum didn't play in another, but sure.
Yeah. And I think they lost to the Thunder. They didn't have one of them. But again, they're 9-14 against top 10 teams in the league. They're 2-4 with Tatum. Another one is this could come up in the playoffs. 5-6 in games decided by 3 points or less. You're going to have to win some games by 3 points or less in the playoffs. And this is a point that Joe made all last year, and or not 2 years ago when they won the title. He was pretty vindicated about it. Felger jumped down his throat, and they had some good back and forths on it. But he said, yes, they're front runners, which is generally not a good thing to be. You don't want to be a team that is everything's going great when you're blowing a team out, but then when it gets tough and it's a close game, you crumble and you lose. So being a front runner isn't necessarily a good thing. But Joe said they could maybe front run their way to a championship, and they kind of did. They kind of did. They lost. They beat the Mavs in 5 games, and then the other games basically weren't close. They were blowing them away even early in the series, even early in games in the series. Mavs never had a chance in that NBA final, and the Celtics barely had any resistance throughout that season. The wire-to-wire championship years. Look, it's fun. I'll take the championship. The ones that you really had to fight and compete for are the ones that really stick with you over time.
Yeah, the all-time being the 04 Red Sox down 3-0 to the Yankees. It's like if they had just kind of like the 07, they still had to come back from 3-1 against Cleveland. But when you face the Rockies, and even the Cardinals in that year was kind of the thing you remember is the climbing out of adversity.
Yeah, none of those World Series are memorable series because they were pretty much one-sided in all of them. I mean, the closest one was when they beat the Cardinals in 6 games in 2013.
And that was only because of that ridiculous interference call, which they brought back on the game broadcast the other night, which still is insane to me.
What a callback.
Insane.
That's not one that I remembered.
Yeah, that was the night that, what's his name? The
Middlebrooks over Alan Craig.
That, but the reliever.
Alan Craig, what a callback.
The middle reliever, it wasn't Brandon Workman, was it?
With the one.
He batted in the 11th inning because John Farrell had no idea about National League rules, and then he pulled him after one batter in the next inning. He was like, John, this is not for you, pal.
All right, that'll do it for the 2013 Red Sox for one afternoon.
I could do a couple more hours on it, but
talk about scratching an itch. That one's been
can I ask you a
hanging
question?
Around
Because we're talking Knicks, we're talking championships. I know like Cade Cunningham's back for Detroit. Like that's a situation. Is there anyone in that? They do have to play a playoff series first. So whoever comes out of the play-in, whether you have Charlotte, Philly, Orlando, or who am I missing there? There's another team.
Charlotte,
Miami.
Yeah, Miami. Well,
Does
Miami.
Any of them, I don't think the Celtics are at risk of losing a series to any of them.
Right, there's past trauma there with Miami, so that might bring back some old feelings.
Much like last year, you want to get through that in 5 games. Like, is there anyone that would risk you having to work harder and put more tax on yourself, whether it be 6 or 7 games in that group?
Yeah, Charlotte, because they've been one of the best teams in the NBA over the second half of the season. I don't know if the numbers back that up. I'm pretty sure they have one of the best records in the league, better than their standing would suggest, and they do play kind of a two-way game. So that's the team that I would pick to make a surprising amount of noise in the playoffs.
Yeah, I just don't think that Charlotte can make it conceivably, though. Just because that the play-in would work is the winner of that 7-8 matchup would get that 7th seed conceivably, and then that's going to be the team to face the Celtics. And Charlotte's just currently like the 9th seed, a couple games back of Orlando, and Toronto, Orlando there as well.
You're saying it's not realistic that they face the Celtics?
Correct. In the first round, yeah. It's going to be a toss-up between Toronto, Orlando, or Philly, depending on who... how the plan pans out and how the regular season ends.
None of those teams scare me. The Celtics should absolutely get past the first round. If they somehow run into Charlotte at some point, that might be a little nerve-wracking because that would mean that Charlotte won a series and they're making noise. So like that would make me nervous. The next one is what makes me nervous after that last game and just these stats that I've thrown out at you. It's that realistically, if you're not going to front run your way to a championship, I know sometimes you have a wire-to-wire season like they did 2 years ago, like the Red Sox have had, like you've had these years before, but that's no guarantee that you can do that again. I don't know that they can repeat that performance. At some point, you have to win the close, tough, competitive games, and Tatum especially I'm not convinced that he can actually do that, and like that next game recently is another sign that maybe they aren't ready to do that, but like it's on the table for them. They have the talent. They have the experience. Now it's time to really break through. And I think this has been part of the debate with the Celtics where like people argue that like Tatum's never had that kind of big clutch close game moment. And then people will throw at you like the 2022 conference final or a game that was in the second
50
round.
points in game 7 or whatever against
right. So I think I wrote an article about it where it's like he hasn't had that true breakthrough. And then Sean Grandy tweeted at me. It's like, oh, was I asleep when this game against Milwaukee happened? My point was they didn't win the finals. They didn't have a true championship breakthrough until 2 years later. Now maybe that they've actually won the title. Maybe they have broken through. But I think the stats bear out, and they're just their overall performance that I'm not necessarily convinced that they can pull through with those close, competitive, tough games. They got to prove it to me.
I think he could have been the Finals MVP. Like Brown deserved it, but so did Tatum. Like there wasn't this mark. People use it as a mark against Tatum. Like he wasn't even the Finals MVP. It's like you look at the numbers. He was clearly the star of that team. Brown benefited from the fact that he was sort of drawing all that attention. So, but you're right. Like it's kind of part of like. Imagine if the Thunder won, but SGA wasn't their far and away best player. It'd be like, oh, that's a little bit weird. So you have to at least look at it through that lens. By the way, numbers-wise, Hornets, to your point, started 16-28. They've gone 27-10 since then.
Yeah, like that feels like they've flipped a switch.
That's crazy.
So it feels like they could be dangerous in the playoffs, more according to what their seed could be. 617-779-0985. We're up against it as usual today. I got to get better with the clock here. I'll figure that out next time. It's Matt Dolloff and Michael Hurley on the Sports Hub. We'll be right back.
Boston's home for sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
in sports? Yeah, we got that covered. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
The Sports Hub, Matt Dolloff and Michael Hurley. We got you until 5:30. We're almost through the third hour here. Masters still close, getting into the back nine. The tournament is starting, according to the Masters.
I'm still on Hagen's watch over here.
We're still on Hagen's watch. I've seen some people say that he's making his debut, but all due respect, I like to go by the official word of the coach. I know that Marco D'Amico, I believe he works for TSN, some other outlets. He's saying he's hearing strong chatter that Hagens is going to make his debut today. So credit to him. I retweeted that. But like even he was sort of couching it where it's like he's hearing chatter. But if it happens, you got to give him credit for being ahead of the game there. But it's a little. I mean, I guess you got to wait till they practice. I mean, I don't know. I guess did Marco Sturm just not have a pregame? I guess he's out in Columbus and.
Well, they played yesterday, so it'll probably be like a hour and a half before puck drop, which is right about now.
I was going to say that's coming out right about now. I thought. I think Jim McBride is the only
if you think
reporter
about it,
for the Bruins, so I was waiting for him.
The thing is, I would say sports media, the industry, not exactly flush with cash the way it used to be when it comes to covering a game in Columbus, Ohio. When the playoffs are locked up, there might be a small number of reporters out there, but Nesson will be there.
Well, Columbus still has a chance to get in. I believe that they can still catch Philadelphia in the Metropolitan Division, which is a great setup the league has. Where the wild cards are locked in, but you still have the division.
That's a good point. I did not consider that they were only 2 points behind the Flyers. This is a big game for the Blue Jackets. I had this all wrong yesterday.
So I'm not sure.
We have to redo the show from yesterday.
Can we rewind to 2 o'clock, please?
Metropolitan Division wide open that third seed. There.
I misrepresented what the Blue Jackets would be today because I thought they were going to be eliminated. So you know what? I take it all back. We got to redo the show yesterday. We got to go back in time.
And it's an interesting spot for the Bruins where it's like, are you just going to lay down and let Columbus have this one?
No, because right now I said in the last update, if the season were to end today, you're in the second wild card. You're getting Carolina. I don't think you want to face Carolina. And I know professional hockey players aren't going to sit around and be like, oh, we're scared of the Hurricanes. But if you can affect change, like I'd rather play Buffalo or Montreal. Probably not Tampa. I would put Tampa and Carolina as the teams you don't want to play.
Now, Ty Anderson, who obviously co-host the Sports Hub Underground podcast with me, and we did the hockey show yesterday from the Garden. He's been on I Want to Play Carolina for weeks now, and he didn't come off that even after that last game against the Carolina Hurricanes. And I tend to agree with him that their style doesn't really translate to the playoffs. You can't play positionless hockey and just play this all-out, chaotic, wreaking havoc kind of aggressive style in the playoffs. And I think that's part of the reason why they've barely even made it to the conference final, despite being one of the best teams in the league and having this deep roster and the deep defensive roster, and they're well coached and all that. But I get it that you don't want to be fed to the top seed. And I'm actually with you that I would still rather play Montreal because I think the way they played against Minnesota, where they're beating up on that undersized defense for Minnesota, that's not how they want to play. I think they can do that to a team like Carolina, which for all their skill, I'm not sure that is going to translate to the playoffs for them. And I would play Buffalo because it's Buffalo and the experience factor, and they just got here. They weren't just not quite a playoff team last year. They've been straight up bad, and they're finally good for the first time in forever.
They finished in 7th place last year.
Yeah.
But they haven't played a playoff game since 2011.
Right, a whole new team. I don't know if anyone's even still on the team from there. Probably not.
Oh, from 11? No, but I'm saying the pressure on that team as this would be if they were to face the Bruins. So let's do it in that scenario. They would be the winners of the Atlantic. They would be division winners, and there you have them hosting their first playoff game in 15 years, and you get to go. I mean, not now. These Bruins aren't the old Bruins. They're not 80 to 100 games of playoff experience up and down the roster. But I'd like their comfort level in some of those situations more than Buffalo, who is going to have the pressure of the world on them.
Yeah.
Now, but the issue is you can't control who's going to win your division. But I still think you're better off in your own division than you would be going over to the Metro.
Yeah, I think it's just I wanted to avoid Tampa. So it feels I feel like that's sort of locked up that they're not going to have to face Tampa. It's probably Buffalo, Montreal, or Carolina.
No, those teams are the Sabres have 106 points and the Lightning and Canadiens have 104 points. They all have
that's
2 games
still to be
play.
decided.
Three-horse race in the division.
Yeah.
So I still, the one team I want to avoid is Tampa, and like not that I'm not afraid of.
You don't want to watch
Carolina.
John Cooper eviscerate officials all through a playoff series and whine and get his way. You don't want to watch that?
Yeah, no, that's not what I want to see, and not the lineup I want to see. I think with their talk about experience and their balance, and I think they match up better against the Bruins than a team like Montreal would, for instance. But yeah, like Carolina, I know they've had their number in a couple recent series. But I guess I feel a little bit better about it than you do. I thought we were going to be talking more Celtics, but I'm kind of glad we segued into the Bruins there for a minute. But I do want to circle back to a Celtics topic real quick. George, you've been bringing up the Giannis to Boston rumors. This was interesting. I've been on the fence about the Celtics actually getting Giannis. My first thought was like, would ownership sign off on a deal like that? But they could actually make the trade where they trade away Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, and picks, basically throw in whatever other players you need to match, and then there's actually less on the cap
and save money. Yes, that's what I've been hearing through the grapevine. So 2 scenarios I'll pose to you guys in terms of these Giannis rumors that just won't go away. There's one package that would involve Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser, and pick swaps, we'll call it, for the next 5-7 years, foreseeable future. And then we'll take on Giannis. He would join. We'll form a new big three with the Jays and then Giannis. Now, obviously, we would expect Giannis to take a back seat and then kind of sacrifice himself the way KG and Ray Allen did when they joined in 07-08 season. Or I pose, what if we have a duplicate of last season in terms of the Celtics failing to get out of the second round? We have some kind of calamitous catastrophe that happens. And in that debacle, we have these Giannis rumors that won't go away. And now all of a sudden, would you leverage one of the Jays and then ship them out to Milwaukee? I am not a proponent of this. I'm not advocating for it. But I will put that to you guys and post to you guys. Would you welcome Giannis in either of those scenarios?
No, the trading one of the Jays, that's a non-starter. That's not. I don't want to break up the Jays. I don't think that's the issue with the team. And I think the idea should be that you're adding Giannis, you're starting the new big three, and you got a super team there. I think that's the idea. If you're even gonna go down Giannis Boulevard there, that's the idea. You get a big three, and then you can trust Brad Stevens to fill out the rest of the roster with draft picks, minimum guys like that. That should be the idea. My concern is that, like you said, like hopefully he would take sort of a backseat where it's like I'm not the man anymore. Like I can be just part of the three. I could be maybe the number 3 guy.
I see Hurley making faces.
But his age, his injury situations, like that's the concern with me.
Do you think it would work if it was a big three with Giannis here with the Jays, Hurley?
He's also just not that kind of player. Like the reason he probably wouldn't work here, he can't shoot the three. He never has been able to shoot the three. So take the ball out of his hands. What is he doing for you? And if you asked me this question 8 years ago, I would have moved heaven and earth for Giannis Antetokounmpo. I thought he was a generational player who was about to win 10 straight championships. He has not lived up to that. Now you would go through all this trouble to get him in his 30s? I just don't see it. Like the way Ray Allen's sacrificing is perfect because he's going to stand in the corner and be a sharpshooter when you need him. Like KG and Paul Pierce worked well together because they both had mid-range game. They both could drive. Like they were both useful all over the floor. Giannis is useful with the ball in his hands, driving to the net, being enormous and unstoppable and drawing fouls. If you take that away from him, I don't know what he's doing for you. So I don't see the fit here, especially with a head coach Joe Mazzulla. If you can't shoot threes, like even Keita is putting up threes now. Like I just at this point, there's no way to teach it to him. There's no way to get Giannis to become a 3-point shooter. I don't see that fit here in any scenario.
So honestly, I kind of like the idea of forcing Mazzulla to have to work in a guy that's not going to shoot threes, so they don't have to lean on the threes as a crutch. I kind of like that idea, but that's a fair point that like you're going to invest all this into a guy that doesn't do exactly what your philosophy
ball
is.
Dominant kind of a player too to get going.
I was actually going to say, could he be just an upgraded version of Keita? But he doesn't play center, right? He insists on playing the 4. Yeah, that's so. Like if they're going to make this move, guys, he has to agree to play center, protect the rim, and like just be part of the system. And I think everything else would sort of work itself out. I think he could still be a 20 and 10 guy basically, and play defense in the paint, protect the rim, and do what you can there, and just accept that you're part of a big three. It's not really your team. It's a Tatum and Brown team. Going back to what you were saying, I hope that Brown can sort of be the identity of the team because of his competitiveness and the willingness to not just shoot the three all the time. You kind of have to attack the rim in certain situations.
I like that play style a lot more.
Get to the line. Like, look at how these teams you win because, I mean, not only because of this, but like, how much did Jalen Brunson get to the line last year in that playoff series? Like, you have to. The Thunder won a championship with their superstar getting to the line. Like, that is as much as the three is an advantage over the two in the mathematical NBA. Like, getting free throws is the ultimate cheat code in any basketball game. And so if you can not only get to the line, but also score, like that, it is a different element that they didn't have last year that I just like better. Maybe it's a personal preference thing. Maybe it ultimately comes out in the wash, but it just feels like a better recipe for success.
No, I think it's true in any professional sport that a true championship team can win in any way. They can, if they have to be a three-point shooting team, they could do that. If they have to attack the rim and get to the free throw line, they can do that. They can play defense. They can defend you any way they can. I think they have the personnel to do that. I think Jason Tatum has the talent to play pretty much any position. Kind of like Magic Johnson could play any position. Jason Tatum is that kind of talent where like he can score and defend pretty much any way. It's just the reliance on that specific style of shooting threes that gets frustrating with them sometimes. It's like you can't win just one way, and like that's sort of bitten them in the ass. And I think it could bite them in the ass.
We got
again.
the news. We got the Higgins news.
Do we? Hit the sound, George.
He's playing.
Hit it.
He's playing.
This is Breaking Sports News, powered by Valvoline Instant Oil Change on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Give it to me, Hurley.
This is according to multiple people on hand in Columbus at Marco Sturm's pregame availability. I'll credit Adam Pellerin of Nesson. James Higgins will make his NHL debut tonight in Columbus. I will add this from Michael Hurley of 98.5 The Sports Hub. About a week too late, but nevertheless, James Higgins, Bruins top prospect, playing tonight in Columbus.
Love it. Love it. I'm glad we actually got to have a real true breaking news moment on this program. We were going to get into the Bruins in the final half hour of the show because we were leading into pregame. But yeah, it was the right move to sign the entry-level contract this year, give him a chance in the NHL. And I was saying, like, if you're not going to play him, like, why'd you even sign the deal? But honestly, common sense would dictate, why are you signing the ELC if he's not going to play? You're going to play him at some point. And Ty made this point on the hockey show. They're going to have to get uncomfortable at some point. But I guess maybe this is sort of the good landing spot in terms of there's nothing really at stake for them in terms of their playoff lives. I know you're saying they want to get the right matchup and
kind
things
of
like
out
that.
It's largely out of their control. Like if you think Tampa's a worse matchup than Carolina, then you're fighting for that potentially. So
Yeah,
it's tough.
But I think like control what you can control and focus on your own game. And I think tonight it should be more important to get Higgins' feet wet.
Third line with Minton and Husnudinov.
Is that official? Mm-hmm. That's what it's going to be. Okay. So
and then Janelle and Kastelik, I was hearing
the kid line. So that's going to be that'll be interesting to watch. I don't know what they're going to throw at him in terms of matchups, but
they're going to give him some power play time maybe on that second power play.
Yeah, give him a little get his feet wet, like I was saying. And so this was inevitable. I wasn't necessarily banging down the door for him to play immediately. Once BC season ended, they didn't have to sign the entry-level deal the next day or anything like that. But 6 games in Providence, that felt a little long.
And then a week of just skating around.
Yeah, and but I get it. Like, they had a sort of a soft landing in terms of they had the 3 days off. They wanted to bring him in, get him in the building, get him used to the whole process, and then they had him watch a game up on 9. And so, like,
I just thought,
end of the day, was any of that a big deal? He's playing, folks. He's in.
Yeah, I mean, Easter Sunday made sense to me. You had the back-to-back. You had travel, both road games, a matinee after a 5 p.m. game. It just made sense to me to start it there, but I guess they didn't deem him ready, and now they do. And it's where it will be useful, like whether or not he's in the lineup come the playoffs next week, he'll at least have some experience should you need him. Should someone get hurt, should something happen, at least it won't be like making his NHL debut in Game 3 of the first round with the Bruins down 2-0. Here's James Higgins. At least there's going to be some experience under his belt.
Right, exactly. George, should we take another break here, or should we go all the way to 4? What should we do? 5?
We got another couple minutes that we can play with here and just do an ender here and then come back Bruins top of the hour after headlines.
All right. So is that yes? Take a break. I didn't understand the answer.
Let's play around another half a minute here.
Let's burn another couple minutes. Okay.
Well, right. I have a question for you. We're working, right? We're very engaged with each other. We're locked in. We're listening. We're talking. The Masters is on. Where did Tyrrell Hatton come from today? Because I look up and all of a sudden he's 10 under, one back of the leaders. They showed him on TV for the first time all day.
Yeah, my friend texted me Hatton in all caps, so I wonder he must have had a hole in one or something. He must have had an eagle at some point.
Yeah, I literally, we've had an eye on it. We've known Rose has jumped ahead at a time. We know McIlroy is now at the top. We know Cam Young.
Rory's back.
Yeah, Rory's back. What happened to Hatton?
Wow,
he was 7 under at the turn, and he's now 10 under. So he's having quite the back nine.
Wow, what a finish this is.
This
Holy
is
crap.
Yeah, so Hatton birdied 13, 14, 15, and 16.
This is where we're going to get the thrill of victory and the agony defeat. Maybe on the same hole.
I think we need. If this is obviously shaping up to be one of the best Masters Sundays of all time. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, unbelievable. We got five players within one stroke of each other.
And this is how I feel every Sunday when this happens. If we don't get a playoff, it's going to be disappointing at this point.
Yeah,
there's been such back and forth atop the leaderboard.
Yeah, so Hatton's done now. He shot a 6 under today
to get to 10. I don't think 10's going to win it, but
he needs help from McIlroy or Rose to choke that away.
Just a crazy, crazy Masters tournament.
Well, good for him. He probably made himself a lot of money with that.
Yeah, you know what it is he was 4 under at one point today, and he finished at 10 under. So that's why he came out of nowhere.
Yeah, unbelievable finish coming up at the Masters. 617-779-0985. We're closing in on a call this afternoon, which I sort of saw coming.
You could put a challenge out there. Who wants to be our caller?
On this kind of day. Yeah, I challenge you. Be a caller. And you could talk. I told you up front, you can talk about whatever you want. We've talked about a lot of different things. So now, George, we're going to take a break, and then Hurley will do headlines at the end of the break, and then we'll come back. All right. So we're going to take a quick break here, and then we'll get Hurley on the headlines around 5 o'clock. Then we will come right back, and we will talk some Bruins. James Hagan's officially in, so we're going to talk about that and more. Matt Dolloff and Michael Hurley on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Boston's home for sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub. is on the Sports Hub.
Goes to the backhand and score! Two-hand slam!
Boston's home for sports.
I love this team!
98.5, the Sports Hub, a Beasley Media Group station. Essential Sports Hub headline, presented by Celsius Energy Drinks.
The Boston Red Sox won a game last night. They won a game today. If they win again tomorrow, that's called a winning streak. The Red Sox put up 7 runs in the first 4 innings en route to a 9-3 victory in St. Louis today. Brian Bayo picking up his first win of the year to get the Red Sox to 6-9 on the season. They'll open up a series in Minnesota tomorrow night with Garrett Crochet on the mound. As for the end of the Celtics regular season, they'll put the finishing touches on it in Orlando with about 7 guys playing in that game, but it will be an NBA game with coverage starting at 5:30 on WROR 105.7. And for the Bruins, rookie James Higgins will be making his NHL debut tonight in Columbus. He'll be on the third line with Fraser Minten and Murat Husnudinov. That game starts at 6 with pregame coverage starting here in the Sports Hub at 5:30. And at Augusta, a crazy Sunday still playing out. Rory McIlroy somehow, some way, still in a solo lead. He's been all over the place today. He's at 11 under. Right behind him, Tyrrell Hatton, Russell Henley, and Justin Rose, and Cam Young, all a stroke back, with Scotty Scheffler still on the prowl at 9 under. A lot to be resolved on the back 9, on the last 9 at Augusta. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Super Service Today. Upgrade your home with an electric heat pump system from Super Service Today to stay cool this summer, warm all winter, and save on energy costs while reducing your carbon footprint. For a free estimate, visit superservicetoday.com. I'm Michael Hurley. Next update during Bruins pregame.
Listen to it, laugh at it, get mad at it, agree with it, argue about it. It is Boston Sports. Boston Sports. And it is all we do. 98.5, the Sports Hub.
In this town, sports happens 24/7. We're Boston's home for sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Face off near circle down to our right for Elias Lindholm. Able to win the draw. Push back to Pasternak, who's out at the point. Center blue line here for McAvoy. Pasta top of the right circle. Gets it down low. Back to Pasta. Over to the far circle. A one-timer by Geeky.
It hit Arvidsson.
Geeky near circle to Pasternak. High slot. Shot saved. Vasilevsky. Rebound comes back to McAvoy. 16 seconds left. Zacha near circle to McAvoy up top to Zacha. Throws it in front off Vasilevsky. 7 to go. Pasternak got it in front. Diving effort by Zacha. Can't keep it alive. It's cleared back into the Bruins zone, and that is going to do it. For the second straight Saturday, the Tampa Bay Lightning come from a goal down in the third period and beat the Bruins in regulation. Boston loses their 5th straight game and misses out on a chance to try to clinch a playoff spot here this afternoon at TD Garden. 2-1 the final. Lightning win it.
.98.5 The Sports Hub. Matt Dolloff and Michael Hurley here. We got a little bonus half hour. It's usually 2 to 5 on a day like this, but we're going to take it right into Bruins pregame. You just heard the final call of a disappointing loss for the Bruins yesterday, which I was at. So I was happy to touch on that game as much as we could, but haven't gotten to it today. But first, great news, Hurley. We got not 1 but 2 callers on the line right now.
Yeah, baby.
So we're going to take you first order in line. I need to give these callers credit. They have answered the call, no pun intended. I was very terrified we were going to go an entire show with no calls, and I was going to be very dejected about that. I was very close to saying the earth is flat or something like that, just to get someone to take the bite. But thankfully, we have Bill in Wilmington has a thought on Roman Anthony. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, I've been watching the Red Sox, and he is just absolutely terrible. He can't throw, he can't hit. His swing is terrible. I don't know why they signed him. I think it's time to send him to the minors because you can't have the leadoff hitter hitting 0 for 4 or 0 for 5 every night. So that's my take.
All right, thanks, Bill.
0 for 5 today from Roman Anthony. He did have an RBI ground out.
Productive out, I guess.
Might have been. second and third or bases loaded. I forget. It was a while ago. But yeah.
So I'm not an expert on his swing. So I'm not sure about that.
He definitely can't throw. And I had the numbers yesterday with McCarthy. He was 3 for 4 on opening day. Since then, the numbers are grisly. And even with them, he's hitting 200, slugging 309. And I think one of the things is you look at the different ways they're treating Roman Anthony compared to Marcelo Meyer. Like Marcelo Meyer, they think is going to be a big part of the future. Theoretically, they haven't signed him yet, but he's someone that projects to maybe be a top of the order hitter with great defense. And they have him batting sixth consistently because he's inexperienced, and that's a good place to be. With Roman Anthony, they're like, "Hey, buddy, you're our best player. You're going to bat leadoff every night. You're going to get, and who's going to protect you in the lineup? Caleb Durbin. All right, go out there and do well." It's just putting a lot on a young. Even I think Roman Anthony's going to be. He's electric. We've seen what he can do, but they're not necessarily putting him in a good situation. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. If he had Kyle Schwarber batting behind him, I bet he'd be getting a lot more pitches to hit.
Right. I think this. I'm not sure it's a knock on Roman Anthony, and they're not going to send him down to the minors. He's here, and I get it. He should be in the major leagues. He should work out all his issues at the major league level. I don't know how bad it would have to get for him to actually go have to play in Worcester for a little bit. I'm not going to totally rule that out, but yeah, this isn't no Roman Anthony problem. It's a Red Sox problem. It's they put way too much in that basket. You can't depend on a 21-year-old. I don't care how talented he is, to turn around the franchise, lead the team, be the identity, lead the way on the field, off the field. Like, there's too much pressure on him to perform at that high of a level at this early in his career. Again, it's his first full season in the major leagues. It's just insane that they took that approach where, they act like Roman Anthony has arrived and he's going to be an MVP candidate this year. And I'm not as concerned about the offense or the swing as Bill was. I know it hasn't been a good start for him, but I think he's going to be a really good hitter at the major league level. I think that's going to work itself out. He's going to be a very high-end offensive player. The throwing arm, I get it. That might never be more than just average, but I think he's got a case of the yips with that.
He's got a ways to go to get back to average right now.
He's a long way from even average when it comes to throwing from the outfield. Maybe he's a DH long term, wouldn't be ideal. But, maybe that's the case. But no, I think that goes back to there's too much pressure on him right now to be that guy. And I think that's why it was a mistake to overhaul your leadership group. Now Wilson Contreras has to be that sort of leadership identity of the team. And you're putting it in the hands of a guy who's a little bit of a loose cannon out there, as we've seen in the early going. That's a good guy to have, but you don't necessarily want that to be your identity. If Wilson Contreras and Roman Anthony are your identity, that makes a lot of sense. There's been a lot of bad, sloppy, chaotic baseball out there this year. So that part of it hasn't worked out so far. Truly an agenda-free Sunday. We got John and Lynn. He wants to complain about streaming services. I will not turn down a call like that. What's up, John?
Hey guys, what's going on? So, hey. Obviously I want to complain about how difficult it is now to watch a simple Red Sox game. You get the NESN 360. I don't even know. I got the app and then I put it through the YouTube and then they still tell me I can't watch it. I don't know what I got to do here, but the point here is the impact I think it's going to have on the younger generation and not really being able to reach that younger group, or making it so difficult. They're getting so greedy that they're going to put themselves out of business eventually with this because no one's going to watch.
I'm sorry to cut you off, John. I thought you were done there. But thank you for the call. I completely agree with you.
You want it to work at least. You can work with it if it works. If it doesn't work, rage.
Can it at least function properly? That's true. And I'm not as big on you got I don't have that much of a problem with having to jump around with the streaming services and people complain that it's what's kind of a lost art in television. Remember the last button used to be instant. You could flip back between two channels with ease. Now it's minimum 2 buttons, even if you have cable.
Buddy, I'm cable all the way. You will find I will die at 120 years old, so I'm going to live a long life, and my cable remote will be in my cold dead hands. I will never give away that last button. I will never give away even though the picture stinks compared to streaming, I will never get rid of cable for just that reason. I don't know what they charge me. I don't know what they pay. What I pay, I don't care. I need it. I can't. You know what drives me nuts? I was a CBS employee for 12 years, so I can say it now because I'm not. I open the CBS app, say I want to watch football or golf or whatever it is. every single time I go to watch, they're like, dude, you got to log in. And I'm like, I am logged in. Why am I ever not logged in? Then I got to re-log in and I got to get my phone out. I got to authenticate. I got to do the double. And it's like, this should never log out. But yet every single time I use the CBS app, whether it's on Roku, whether it's on Apple, whether it's on whatever, I got to log out and I got to log, and it makes me so mad. It's first world problems, I know, but I just get that rage.
Yeah, I know. It's especially this day and age where patience is probably at an all-time low. If you were able to quantify something like that.
Let's say you got the football game's on and you got it on the car and the radio and you want to get in during the commercials and not miss anything, and then you miss like 4 plays because you're re-logging in and authenticating. It's crazy.
I never have that problem. I guess that might be a CBS issue, but like I'm logged in. Like that's, I guess that's maybe just me being in a bubble and I don't have to deal with that, but like that's never been an issue for me. And like I don't have cable. I'm a cord cutter. I do have an antenna, so I can get CBS and Fox, and like, so if there's 2 games going on the major networks, that last button is like magic. Like people wouldn't have no idea what to do with themselves if they could have the last button that I got with that antenna. That would be my recommendation to people that, like, if they want to get rid of cable, get yourself a digital antenna. You can get all the major networks and in HD and all that. So it doesn't solve every problem, and I know that like to the caller's point that like you can't have everything, like 7 different streaming services, and like that's just, Hurley, I'm not a business expert, but I've said, like, how could you not find a way for like to make it easier for fans to access every game regardless of what service it's on? I always get like I guess the business nerds coming back. I mean, it's like, oh no, you don't understand. You're going to stifle innovation and competition. And it's like, I don't care. I just want to get the game.
And it is like something you can find, certainly, but I guess, like, my friend texted me the other night and he couldn't find the Celtics game because it was on Prime. So it's like you go through is it on ESPN? It's not on NBC. It's not on this. And you go through all the channels and you're like, oh, it's got to be on Prime at that point. And it is just, there should be a way. Like, if you do have cable, your streaming subscription should be a channel. Like, there's 8 million channels. One of them could be Prime and you log in. Like, I haven't figured out the tech side of that yet. I didn't.
You've been in the lab about that?
I didn't study computer science at school. I studied journalism. That was my first career mistake. But yeah,
computer science feels like a mistake right now too.
Yeah, it's
the
true.
AI.
That's true.
I'm not sure what isn't a mistake at this point.
Rory just stuck it on 12. Rory's going to win this thing.
Wow.
Rory's going to win this thing.
Does that end the choker narrative if he wins back-to-back Masters and with like a clutch Sunday?
With also a little choking involved. Like, what a treat. What a treat for us.
He even had a mini choke, and he might overcome the choke.
It's going to be great. I mean, there's still a long way to go, but
yeah, there's still 6-7 holes for the leaders in the tournament. Yeah, what a finish in the Masters. All right, 617-779-0985. We do have one more break if you want to come in and make a last-minute call. I see you on the line there, Ryan. We're going to get to you next break. We're going to take you into Bruins pregame. One more break here. Matt Dolloff and Michael Hurley on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Boston's home for sports. 98.5 The Sports. just like you. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
.98.5 The Sports Hub, Matt Dolloff and Michael Hurley. We got one more break for you until Bruins pregame. George, is this a generic rejoin or is that Earth, Wind, and Fire?
It is Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Okay, good. I didn't know if this was like a generic ripoff of September.
Right, or some karaoke stuff. I am an instrumental guy, though, but this is the official stuff.
That's good to know. All right, we're going to go right to the phone lines here. The callers really came through for us.
Thank goodness.
The anti-Rory McIlroy are the callers today. I said we haven't gotten calls today. I'm going to be very depressed if we go the whole show without a call. And then we got 2 or 3 at the very end there. So thank you to the callers. Thank you for listening and answering the call. No pun intended, I guess, at this point. What were you gonna say something there, Hurley?
I was just pointing as Rory dropped another birdie.
Oh, wow.
He's going to win this thing.
McIlroy with a 2-stroke lead now.
He's going to win this thing.
So now it's in a spot where if he chokes, this might just be the top of the list of Rory chokes. If he chokes now.
It will be hard to tell the story of the 26 Masters. That's all I know.
Yeah.
Chaos.
Right, exactly. All right, to the phones. Ryan in Franklin has a thought on James Higgins, who's making his NHL debut tonight. Go ahead, Ryan.
What's up, boys? I hope you guys are having a good weekend. A couple things I wanted to ask you about. Yeah, I wanted to see if Higgins was playing because of, they clinched last night, even though they had a goose egg yesterday, which frustrated us all. But the other question I had for you, the more important question, have you guys been watching the whole situation around Toronto and our draft pick that we should get that's top 5 protected? Because I've been watching it like a hawk, and nobody's really talking about it because they just fell. Those suckbags fell into the top 5 in the bottom again. So now we're on the brinks of losing it. And Hal Gill got hurt. And so they're benching him. He's done for the season. And Wool's done for the season. So I want to take as much as I can from Toronto. And I didn't know if you guys have been watching to see now we might not get that pick.
I've been paying attention to it as much as I can. Real quick before I let you go, Ryan, did you mean Brandon Carlo when you said Hal Gill?
I was wondering.
Yeah.
Okay, that was good. That was good. All right, thanks for the call, Ryan.
Man,
yeah, that was pretty good.
That's pretty good.
That was a good call.
Because I was going to ask, is there a Hal Gill Jr. I don't know about?
I didn't know. I thought maybe Hal Gill's kid was in the NHL. There's an outside shot at that.
I liked Hal Gill. Wasn't the most fluid defenseman.
No, Hal Gill will not survive in today's NHL. Is what I would.
One time, I went to story time real quick. One time I was in like the 5th row, and he fought Chara when Chara was on the Senators. Did not fare well.
No,
Hal Gill. There was blood on. They had to clean the blood off the ice.
That was the birth of nobody wants to fight Chara. It got to a point where it's like, yeah, nobody should even take that on. See, on the Toronto pick, they're pretty much in full on tank mode. I'd be shocked if they even win a game here at the very end. I don't know if they can get out tanked at this point. So, yeah, that pick is going to be in the top 5. I want to say it's post lottery though. However that shakes out, right? It's not. They could still fall out of the top 5.
Yeah, they could. So right now they have their 5th worst. Now Seattle is 1 point better in the standings. The Panthers are 2 points better in the standings. So it could flip, but like you said,
Seattle's out, so they're sort of tanking too.
Yeah, it's hard to predict these things. The Leafs hosting the Stars tomorrow and then finish their season in Ottawa on Wednesday.
Yeah, they're not going to get. They might get 1 point.
They lost 6-2 to Florida yesterday. Like that's effort to lose 6-2 to Florida right now.
I mean, Dallas is sort of locked in too, but I just don't see Dallas could not try and play half their roster and still beat the Leafs. Yeah. But yeah, it's tricky though because I was looking into it. I'm a little confused by it. There's a scenario where if it does fall outside of the top 5, if it's like 6-10 basically, Toronto would have the choice of sending that pick to either the Bruins or the Islanders. And so I don't understand why they would, or I don't know if the Islanders are the other team. Or the Bruins or the Flyers. Sorry. That's the other team. They would have the option of sending it to one of those two teams. And I don't understand that. It's like, so they both traded for the 27 first round pick. I'm a little confused.
Who's in charge over there at the NHL?
Yeah, I don't understand how that condition should even exist, let alone be a possibility. But yeah, and so if the pick somehow rolls to, they're going to get a first round pick from the Leafs. It depends on whether it's this year or next year. Next year is unprotected. So I don't know, maybe that's a consideration for the Leafs where it's like, do we just give them the 8th pick or do we risk it with the unprotected pick?
I don't think the Toronto Maple Leafs can do 2 seasons of this.
Yeah.
I just the market would dictate they have to be a lot better than this. I don't think they're going to, contend for a Stanley Cup next season, but they're going to have to do what they can. You can't do this twice in a row. And I'm sure it's happened. The Maple Leafs aren't exactly the most relevant franchise of my lifetime, but you would just assume, given the state of the league and the state of where they're at, that this would not this would not fly for another year in Toronto.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. It would not fly, but I don't know if they got to show up on the ice and do it. They had Austin Matthews for most of the season before he got hurt, and they sucked anyway. I think losing Mitch Marner, I don't think they necessarily traded much. They got back much for him, and that has hurt them in the long run. So they got worse in the offseason, and they didn't expect him to be this bad, but they've sort of really gone into the tank. Not to use another pun, but yeah, like that. Doesn't feel like the Bruins are going to get that pick anyway.
So I guess
this year, but we'll see.
They did have 2 bad seasons in a row a decade ago. 14-15 and 15-16 were bad, and then they made the playoffs for a decade straight. So it could happen. You could luck into it again next year if you don't get it this year, but it would be nice, considering you assume Hagens is going to be in the mix next year. Arvidsson's a free agent. You assume he'll be gone after a career resurgence. He'll make money somewhere. You're going to put Hagens into the lineup. You wouldn't hate replenishing that prospect pool if you can get a top 10 pick.
Oh no, I mean absolutely. I will take the top 10 pick. We still got calls. We got callers at the last second here, Hurley. I'm gonna take them. All right, Marcus in the car. Go ahead, Marcus. Okay, we don't have Marcus. Sorry. All right, let's try. Okay, we got a call. I'm gonna wait for a minute to see if they can pop him up there. Sorry about that. All right, so yeah, Hagens is in. He's on a line with Minton and Husnudinov, which is a little interesting to me.
It's fun.
Per Adam Pellerin from Nesson, no McAvoy, no Hampus Lindholm, Zacha, or Arvidsson tonight. So Pasternak's in.
And as we stated,
Morgan Geekie is in.
A big game for Columbus.
Yeah,
they're chasing the 3 seed in the
must-win
Metro. They can't win they can't make it into the wild card, but they can still make it in as a top 3 in the Metro.
Yeah, must win for Columbus. So it's going to be interesting to see how this game goes. Ty was making the point about Hagens, where you might want to have a personal protector for him on his line. Minton and Husnudinov, I don't necessarily see them filling that role. Maybe Minton, he's a little big. He's got a little bit of a nasty side to him.
He's like the big brother. He's literally 2 years older than
Hagens. My prediction is Nikita Zadorov is going to be that guy. When Hagens is on the ice, Zadorov is going to be on the back end with him. And Zadorov is with Andrew Peeke, he has a little bit of that to him as well. So if someone tries to take a run at Hagens or get physical with him, here comes Uncle Nikita to save the day. That's my prediction for tonight. Assuming he's in, I don't know if that's the full list of guys being sat tonight. But we'll see. It's going to be an interesting game for Columbus and the Bruins, and we'll see how the Bruins sort of approach these last 2 games here. They obviously don't have to get any points anymore. They're in, but it'll be interesting to see how they sort of approach these things. All right, Hurley.
All right, we did it. We
did it. Made it through almost a full, proper show.
What a Sunday, too. It's so nice out. You've got such good sports going right now. What a day.
Yeah, I don't blame anyone if they didn't have their radio on this afternoon, but big thanks to all the people that called in at the very end there. You made me feel a lot better about the rest of my day. We got quite a finish coming up at the Masters here. Rory with a 2-stroke lead with 6 holes to go, 7 holes to go, whatever it is. The Red Sox won again. Maybe they're sort of starting to turn the corner. Maybe this is the series they needed. Bruins getting ready for the playoffs. You get to see an exciting young prospect make his debut. Very exciting night for the Bruins. And the Celtics are playing, too. They're on 105.7 WROR, by the way. So enjoy the games, folks. Thanks for listening. Have a good one.
From the Town Fair Tire Studios, this is Boston's home for sports. WBC-FM and HD Boston 98.5, the Sports House.